What's up, guys? Welcome to the NBA Deeper Dive presented by PrizePicks. Got a nice little two-game playoff slate, both elimination games tonight. So this one should have some good basketball. Got the perfect guy to help us break this slate down. Adam, should my money share? Adam, how you doing, man?
Doing pretty well. Looking forward to a two-gamer, like you said, two elimination games. So it's very possible neither game is competitive, but at least we know that it's going to be teams that absolutely have to win. So should hopefully be good games if the underdogs can stay in it.
Definitely. That would be the question is, well, maybe there'll be some fighting to the bitter end because it's an elimination game, but some interesting situations from an injury standpoint tonight as well. Just at a high level, we got Zach LaVine, Alex Caruso, and Andre Iguodala all out. So not really expecting a ton of news leading up to lock, but we'll certainly keep you guys posted. But let's talk a little bit about two-game strategy before we get going. Like, I do feel like the switch from 3 games to 2 games is like pretty significant as far as how you should approach a slate. What do you think?
Yeah, I mean, obviously the opportunity cost goes down per spot in your lineup. I typically kind of just stop caring about rules at all. Like I had talked on the show with Lofty this morning about Cousins and Jokic specifically, where I don't mind having them together. Like, yeah, it's not ideal because DeMarcus Cousins' best game comes when Jokic gets in foul trouble or ejected or something. But even at their medium projections, you can very easily get a case where, like, even if you just look at last game, Cousins plays 10 minutes, scores 18 fantasy points, Jokic scores 54. Basically, as long as Jokic beats Giannis in that scenario, that's pretty likely to be a really strong pairing. So I don't worry too much about about negative correlation rules like I would even on a 3-game slate or a 4-game slate. And then also more willing to play additional guys from each team. That obviously is going to be a talking point when we talk about Chicago in particular here. But, if there were 4 games on this slate, I'd still be pretty hesitant to go with 4 Bulls or something like that. Whereas here, I think that's more palatable just because you don't have as many other guys to choose from.
Yeah, definitely. I think that you're going to see a lot of lineups with a lot of Bulls tonight, given the injury situation. So that's a really interesting game theory situation. One of my things that I've noticed just building lineups for DraftKings and FanDuel for playoffs, especially 2-game slates, is like in a 2-game slate, like, there's a lot of urge to try to be different, but like the amount you need to be different like really varies based on the site where like the tonight's DraftKings contest has about 29,000 lineups in it. So like there's more than 30,000 like good lineups on DraftKings, where FanDuel typically runs like larger field tournaments, and there's also less possible lineups that are any good. So like I feel like game theory, like you kind of want to lean more into the game theory on FanDuel. And then on DraftKings, if you just avoid some of the most popular combinations of players, you should be fine and not have to split the 100K too many ways. So like what have you noticed with that?
I don't play FanDuel, so I'll take your word for it. But I mean, the thing that's tough too with NBA is like you can only be so contrarian. Like it's not like you can throw like Mamukulishvili into a lineup and say like, oh, nobody's playing him, maybe he'll come through. Like he's going to score 0. So like there's only so much you can do. And then the other thing is like even when you look to like the very last guy in the rotation, for example, let's say Javon Carter at 3,100. Let's say like he's not going to be popular, and so you take a chance on him. Every Javon Carter lineup's going to look the same because it's just people are playing Javon Carter so that they can, like, I don't know, jam in Giannis and Jokic or something like that. So that's the other thing that makes it tough with basketball is like, in a sport like baseball on a 2-game slate, you can just grab the worst offense and hope to get lucky and it's going to happen a decent amount of the time. But in basketball, like there's a finite number of ways that you can like even be different. And so I think makes it a little bit tougher too.
Yeah, I agree. It is a little bit tough to like leave a ton of money on the table because like it is so hard for a random player to outscore like Giannis or Jokic, for instance. Like talking about guys that are kind of like end of the bench. I remember a couple of years ago, Rinpack took down like 50 or 100K with Kendrick Nunn, and he wasn't even like projected to be in the rotation. So it does happen, but I feel like that's more of like a showdown strat. What do you think?
Yeah, or at least a spot where I don't remember specifically the Kendrick Nunn game, but I know that there were times where it was kind of like um, he could be in the rotation, may not be, maybe that kind of thing. Like we don't have any of those situations today, I don't think, where like you're looking at somebody and saying, I mean, I guess like Jordan Waro would sort of be the example, but we've already seen 2 games without Middleton. But like if this were the first game without Middleton, maybe you could try something with Waro where it's like, well, I don't really think he's going to play. Most people don't think he's going to play, but if he does play, and I'm like the only person with him, that's really, really good. And it's worth all those times he doesn't play. But when you're going into game number 3 without Middleton, you don't really have that uncertainty there because you've already seen what they're going to do. And then, with it being deeper into the series in all of these, you run into that problem. Like we know what Denver's rotation looks like. We know what every rotation looks like here, with the exception of Chicago. So I don't know, maybe like you throw a dart at like Troy Brown when everyone thinks it's going to be Javonte Green and Derek Jones or something, but like that's not even that exciting because Troy Brown sucks anyway. So, or like maybe Tristan Thompson gets minutes alongside Vooch. That would be that's probably on this slate if you're trying to go for that angle where like something happens that nobody sees coming, and it's not like injury related. That would probably be the one where it's like maybe you get that Thompson Vooch front court again for more minutes, but it's just really difficult to find spots like that typically.
Yeah, like that one, like especially in an elimination game, I feel like some of those end of the bench guys like Thompson, Thompson and Vooch don't even combine for 48 minutes, like in a lot of games this series. So, like in general, how do you approach like minutes for an elimination game differently than a regular game? Because I do feel like, especially with the team that could be going home, they usually don't leave their guys on the bench too long.
Yeah, I mean, I think you can go a minute or two higher on some guys. The hesitancy that I have though with Chicago in particular is that like we know the rates go up for guys like DeRozan and Vooch, but I there's such a good chance that this is a really inefficient game for them and that Milwaukee just completely destroys them that I'm kind of hesitant to say like, oh well, I think DeRozan plays 44 minutes and he produces at the same rate that he has all season long when Levine's been out, just because it is such a difficult spot and he's gonna have so much defensive attention on him. So, like, I mean, I'm still at 40 minutes on DeRozan, like 36 or 37 on Vooch. They certainly could play more, but there's still enough stuff that randomly happens in a game that I don't feel comfortable going a whole lot higher than that.
Yeah, totally. And like the more a guy fouls, the like harder it is for them to play those kind of crazy minutes. So like Vooch, for instance, being a center, like this particular instance might be a little different because he's facing Brook Lopez, who's like a stretch 5. But let's get into the by game breakdown. But before we do, guys, if you're enjoying the show so far, if you can throw us some love, hit that like button, and if you're not already a subscriber, make sure to hit that subscribe button to keep up with all our DFS content. And then if you want to get notified when we go live, hit that notification bell. And also, we give some freebies every day. Today, our free premium tools on Awesemo are the NBA ownership rankings, the NHL player rankings, the PGA golfer projections for this week's Mexico Open, and MLB player rankings. So make sure to check all those out. All right, so for Chicago, we have Levine and Caruso out. Levine due to COVID protocols and Caruso due to a concussion. Now, we haven't necessarily seen this combination of guys being in and out. So let's start with the starting lineup. What are you thinking it's going to be?
Kobe White, Dosunmu, DeRozan, Williams, and Vooch.
Nice. Yeah, that's kind of what I'm expecting. It's the first game, so we don't really need to like plan ahead for this. But I know Javonte Green has started a lot of games this season, but I kind of thought I was thinking is Patrick Williams like is back and he's played the 4, which Javonte Green has started at. But do you think it's possible that Javonte Green like sneaks into the starting lineup? Because I know he's the guy that everyone's looking at tonight.
I mean, he could. I have a really hard time seeing that though, because you're trying to replace Levine's production and you're also replacing another guard in Caruso. So if you go with like if you go with a lineup that has like Dosunmu, Green, DeRozan, Williams, Vooch, DeRozan like is gonna have a miserable time because there's no even threat to score other than him and Vooch. If you were to go Kobe White instead of Dosunmu, then like maybe you could do that. But I think for the most part, it's like when Green was getting those starts, Patrick Williams was out. I think Patrick Williams takes those minutes now.
Agreed. Yeah. All right. Got a super chat. Thanks, my filler Arc. He says DK says Rajon Tucker won't accumulate points today. My lineups are ruined. Why is DK actively wanting me to lose? Wow, I was completely unaware that Rajon Tucker, like, how did this happen? Like, did he get traded or something?
Yeah,
Like,
I saw that too. I was like, one, who
what?
is Rajon Tucker? Two, what team is he on? And three, what prompted this?
I know, yeah. I believe he played for the Jazz for a while, but like they're not on the slate, so I don't understand what's going on with this one. Maybe my filler Arc has some insight into the situation here, but that's pretty interesting. All right, so with this new starting lineup of Dosunmu, White, possible or probably uh DeRozan, Patrick Williams, and Vucevic, like I think that with Levine out, like that's a lot of unassisted usage that has to go somewhere. And DeMar DeRozan is probably the guy, as well as Kobe White, that can kind of score with the ball in their hands. So, are you thinking they're the ones that are going to be more productive because Zach LaVine is out tonight?
Yeah, we have a pretty decent sample of Levine and Caruso being off the floor. DeRozan's got a 36.8% usage rate over that stretch. Kobe White's at 21.4%, 0.9 DraftKings points per minute for White, 1.29 for DeRozan. So I think in addition to Vooch, who's got a 29% usage rate without them on the floor as well, you're going to see just those three guys really heavily relied on for scoring. It is worth noting that Patrick Williams has a 24.5% usage rate without them on the floor. He's only played 123 minutes without them this year, but I do think it's interesting that you have seen the usage rate go up for him a lot more than I would have expected it to.
That is pretty interesting. I'm a little bit skeptical about that, like continuing this game, but let's look at his usage. It's been about 15.5% over the playoffs. So
it's also like, so if you just take Levine off instead of taking Levine and Caruso, so that you get like 40 more minutes, it gets up to, or I guess 70 more minutes, it gets up to 191 minutes and it goes down to 20%.
yeah, that's really why like it's important to get the right guys in and out when you run these queries, I think, because like Caruso being out, like, and we're replacing him with Kobe White. Kobe White's usage rate is 20% compared to 13.5% for Caruso. So that almost seems like it's going to take away shots. That might compensate for Zach LaVine being out of the lineup to some extent. But so Patrick Williams, I think that begs the question, like the minutes should be there. He's kind of pricey on DraftKings at 5K. How are you going to handle him in DFS tonight?
Well, and one thing with what you were just saying, like keep in mind that Caruso's out too. So like you're replacing Caruso with you're replacing Caruso with the Sunmu's usage, and then you're replacing Levine with White. So like it's still a really there's still a lot of usage available. So I think you do see Patrick Williams usage go up, but I don't expect it to get up to like the mid 20s. I am still interested in Williams though, just because I think he plays as many minutes as he can without fouling out. Like they need him out there defensively. I do think that he gets at least some sort of bump in usage, and I think you're just going to see a lot of people go to Dosunmu. I think you're going to see a lot of people go to White, and deservingly so. They both look like two of the best values on the slate. But I think that the fact that Patrick Williams is a little bit more expensive makes me interested, just because I think it's going to make it a little bit more difficult for people to get there. Right now, we have White projected at 49%, Dosunmu at 44%, Patrick Williams only at 22%. To me, that's pretty interesting in tournaments.
Definitely. And this is a situation where I think the boom bust tool can really come into some help here. So right now, Patrick Williams at 5K, we have him as a -3.5 point value. That being said, 5K is a really valuable price point for your lineup because there aren't too many cheap guys tonight that we know are going to be contributing. So it's always nice to compare the probability of success to the ownership with the boom bust tool. It's funny because like I just re-uploaded the projections and now it just popped back up here. All right, so Patrick Williams, 22% ownership. We have him at a 17% chance of being in the optimal lineup, 7% boom percent. So I think this all depends like how much you think Patrick Williams is going to benefit as far as minutes and usage with Levine and Caruso out. I mean, I think it's going to benefit him a little bit, but like if it's 8% usage being divided between 5 players, maybe he sees like between 1 and 2% of that, which doesn't seem like it's gonna really make me rushing to get him. How are you feeling?
Yeah, I mean I agree with that. Like, and he's not that type of player either. Like, you're not expecting Patrick Williams to just start having the ball in his hands a lot. But I do think that there is some sort of bump for him, and I think that people are just flocking to White and the Sunmu when I don't think I think that White certainly projects better. I think the Sunmu is very similar, and it seems like the field is a lot higher on the Sunmu.
Totally. We got a couple of super chats. Thanks, Jorge, for the super chat. He says, for DK large field GPP, any suggested rules for max players per team, max of the opposing team? So I think in 2 game slates, like you see oftentimes the winning lineup has 4 players from the same team, I would say. And tonight, the Chicago Bulls have enough value that like you could really justify 4 players from that team. That being said, like I feel like if you go with 4 Bulls, you're gonna have like a pretty similar lineup to other people. So that might be not my preferred way to approach tonight's slate. So I'm kind of leaning towards 3 players a team, like on average, being the cap. What are you thinking?
Yeah, I mean, I think I'll probably cap it at 4. I don't necessarily think all my lineups will have 4, but like I'm not going to rule it out because if I play a lineup that has 4 Bulls, I know I'm contrarian somewhere. So like it could be that I'm playing Patrick Williams. It could be that I'm taking a shot on like a Derek Jones or a Tristan Thompson or something like that as the 4th guy, or it could just be that I have a low-owned guy from a different team, and that it doesn't really matter. So like I'm not going to prevent myself from making those lineups, but I would assume that most lineups have 3.
Nice. All right. Thanks, Jowlin, for the super chat. FT GPP, any love for balance build and spreading salary and thoughts on fading the Bulls to get different? So I think for FanDuel, a balance build, like it's definitely something that works on a slate like tonight where there's no like value plays that really jump out. That being said, I'm looking at the boom bust tool and it's like the chance that Jokic is in the optimal is like 57%. The chance that Giannis is in the optimal is 57%. So those are the 2 most expensive guys. It's going to be hard to build balance around those guys. So if the idea is balanced is mid range like only, like it doesn't seem like the optimal strategy based on these numbers. What do you think?
Yeah, I think it seems pretty difficult. Like, if you were going to do it on a slate, I do think it's this type of slate where it can work because you do have, um, you have guys like DeRozan and Vooch, Stephen Curry, guys that can put up massive games. And if like Giannis and Jokic were to each get like 55 fantasy points or 60 fantasy points, so they missed their projection by like 5 points or so, that can easily work out because you can have Curry, DeRozan go for 55 or something like that. But there's also just enough underpriced guys that it makes it so easy to get to one of Giannis or Jokic, because Dosunmu's 4,500, White's 4,200. You have a really cheap Otto Porter without Iguodala. You have, I mean, Bobby Portis is sub 6K. So the issue you run into is like, if I just look at the top projected lineups I can make on FanDuel, it's not like I'm having to forego DeRozan and Vooch to get the Giannis. I'm just playing DeRozan plus Vooch plus Giannis. So it starts to become like you're not giving up Giannis to get one of those guys. You're giving up Giannis to get, maybe Steph, which would be fine. But other than that, it's like you're giving him up to get just somebody that's not even remotely close. And you're quote unquote upgrading, but the guys you're upgrading are good value guys like Kobe White and Ayo Dosunmu. So it makes it, I think, really difficult to forego those raw points.
Nice. And then the second part of the question, fading the Bulls to get different. I think like it's a case by case basis, but like again, like DeMar DeRozan, based on what I'm looking at here, is one of the best plays of the slate, and he's actually showing up as positively leveraged in our tools, which means that not enough people are likely to have him. So, like we want to really quantify the risk reward of like playing versus fading guys. So, yeah, any general thoughts on like it? Like there is some team correlation where like maybe the Bulls get blown out and then like everyone has like 3 Bulls in their lineups and you can kind of like move to the top that way, but you are like giving up a lot of projected points, I would think. How are you going to handle the Bulls tonight?
The concern I have is that the Bulls are so underpriced because of Levine being out. And what does a blowout loss actually look like, with this being the last game of the season if they get blown out? So, like, for example, 2 games ago, where they lost by like 30, you didn't get any fourth quarter run from Levine or Vooch or DeRozan. And so you only got 31 minutes from Levine, 31 from Vooch, 32 from DeRozan. But what would, like, they still had more games to go. What would the reasoning be here, even if they're down, 30 points at the end of the third? Are they really just going to say, like, okay, well, that's it for our season? Are they not going to just like leave those guys out on the floor and give them at least, like 3 or 4 minutes to try and get back into the game or something? And so at that point, I mean, if they're getting blown out, there's a good chance that in general they're not playing well, but you're still talking about probably one or two of these guys that are wildly underpriced if they get even 34, 35 minutes paying off that salary. So that's the concern for me is I just think the minutes in a blowout look different than they would in your typical game.
Great. Yeah, I think that's a good point that maybe in a blowout, they're getting like 35 minutes instead of 40, but that's still a lot of minutes. So, Chance, thanks for the super chat. He said, would I just be donating money if I went with the Bulls / Bucks stack with Cousins as a one-off? I don't think it's donating money because certainly that can work. And I've seen a lot of times in playoff slates, like it'll be 7 guys from the same game and one from the other game. But like I don't know if that's something I'd like go out of my way to like really approach a slate with. Just because I feel like a game stack isn't necessarily like an advantage. How do you game stack in NBA?
I mean, I don't force one, but like, I guess it kind of depends on how he means this question. Like, if you're saying, should the first thing you do be just like build a game stack with a Cousins one off? Probably not. But if you're looking at a lineup that you really like and it happens to have 7 guys from that game and a Cousins one off, there's no reason that you should like change it. There's nothing like objectively bad with it.
Agreed. Yeah, that's how I'd approach it as well. Another like Cousins as a one-off, it's almost I'm kind of wondering if he's not in the garbage time lineup, like because that would be a huge loss. Like where maybe Zeke Naji is the guy that gets those minutes, and you have Cousins, and it's like neither of them do well. So, I'm trying to like lock in. If we're kind of like looking at this from like this game could be a blowout, no one does well. Actually, like that doesn't even seem very possible because the team that blows out the other team usually does well enough. So I don't know. All right, let's talk about the rest of the Bulls here. So, how are you feeling about? I think Awesemo and Kobe White are the guys everyone's going to be rushing to get because they're cheap and presuming they're starting, we'll get that news before lax. So there's not really much point guard depth. So it stands that they should get a lot of minutes. What do you think?
Yeah, I mean, I think they're both good values. Like, there's certainly risk because you're facing the Bucks. It's a good defensive team. The Sunmu's not a high usage guy, but he does do a good job of picking up assists, and you should see plenty of that without Levine or Caruso. Kobe White's not an efficient scorer, but he's more than willing to try, and he's cheap and likely to play a bunch of minutes. In the games that he played without Levine and Caruso this year, he averaged 36 minutes per game. The Sunmu averaged 39 minutes per game. I don't have any reason to think that their minutes are going to be like artificially limited for some reason here. And even though they're certainly flawed players and like White hasn't really played a big role in the series in particular, what are the alternatives? Like going to Troy Brown, going to Javante Green, Derek Jones Jr., like especially assuming you're playing from behind, none of those guys are giving you a better opportunity to come back than Kobe White is, despite his lack of efficiency.
Yeah, definitely. So it's hard to like see a scenario where they're not getting the minutes. They're not like looking like they're guaranteed to have a good score for their salary based on those minutes, but still like it is it's a tough fade in my opinion. So those are going to be staples in my lineup. Now I don't I'm sure a question would be like, do you want to play them in the same lineup? And I think that if they're both starting, there's not really any correlation that we can really put our finger on. Is that how you'd handle it?
Yeah, I have no issue playing them together. And so if you don't worry about Caruso and you just look without Levine and then with DeRozan and Vooch this year, 12 games for Dosunmu. He averaged 37.5 minutes per game, 0.84 DraftKings points per minute. Kobe White started 9 games with DeRozan and Vooch and without Levine, 0.95 DraftKings points per minute, 36.4 minutes per game.
Nice. All right, so let's get to the Bulls bench here. I think Javonte Green is surprisingly popular in our ownership projections at about 20%. Like this one seems iffy to me. Like I guess the bull case could be like maybe Patrick Williams isn't having a good game and Javonte Green gets in the game more. But this is a guy that's been playing like 4 minutes in the last 2 games, so it's hard to get too excited. Like, what is this a guy that you're going to be putting money on? Javonte
I think it's
Green.
pretty difficult. I mean, even if you give him like 22 minutes, he projects for like 13, 14 DraftKings points. I guess maybe he gets into lineups a little bit just because he's 3,200 and it opens up the door for you to get to a bunch of other guys that you want to. But I certainly have no confidence in Green because you could even just see Derek Jones play more minutes than him. There's a non-zero chance that Troy Brown somehow gets ahead of him in the rotation. I don't think that's likely. There's also a non-zero chance, I mentioned it earlier, that they go to the Thompson lineup. I think that's less likely with Lopez and Portis both starting. I think it would be more likely if Giannis was starting, like if Portis wasn't starting. But I mean, there's some chance that happens. So the point being, like, not only do you have to get Javonte Green to actually do things when he's on the floor, which is a tough ask at times, but you also need to get the rotation that you're expecting when there are other alternatives.
Yeah, and I think like I'm having trouble like putting my finger on who's going to get like these extra minutes. So I think the two possible options, oh well, three options. I mean, Tristan Thompson, there's Derek Jones Jr. and Troy Brown Jr. So I don't feel confident enough in any of them individually to really take a big stand there. Is there any one guy that you're kind of thinking is a good play?
No, I mean, I view Green and Jones very similarly. Jones was actually ahead of Green in the rotation last game. Take that for what it's worth. I don't think it's worth a ton. But yeah, I'm not confident in any of them. I'm hoping I don't get much of any of them, but 2 game slate, you probably get a little bit.
Totally. All right. Let's any final thoughts about the Bulls here before we move on?
Nope.
Cool. Yeah, I think this will be a key team to get right. So I think that'll be an interesting game to watch for sure. Guys, if you haven't checked out our sponsor PrizePicks, make sure to show them some love. They have daily prop-based contests. Like the way it works is you pick between 2 and 5 players, and you also pick a stat, the over and under on that stat. And then you can get varying payouts based on how much risk you want to do. Like you can get like if you get 2 out of 3, you win X, and 3 out of 3, you win Y, or you can go all or nothing. So there's some interesting strategy involved. You can get $100 to try their product, and I think you'll like it using the promo code Awesemo. And you can also get yourself a free month of Awesemo Plus to up your game and all these other DFS contests as well. So it's a win-win. You get $100 plus that free month, and you can get up to 10x your entry fee if you go all out with the 5 leg prop parlay. And let's look at the NBA PrizePicks tool on our site and try to pick out some props that we got our eye on for tonight. Like they have props from like so many different sports, but let's pick some NBA ones. So let's see. The Jokic assists, 6 is the line. And the line at sportsbooks is 6.5. And I'm on the over of that. So 6 seems overly generous for these Jokic assists. He hasn't cracked 6 in the playoffs. So I'm like, is there some reason why like Austin Rivers is like getting all the like ball handling now or something? We'll talk about that game in a bit. Like, is there something I'm missing here? Because like Jokic gets a lot of assists and he hasn't been getting assists. So maybe you can talk me off that one, but I'm going over on Jokic 6 assists.
So for what it's worth, and we'll talk about it more when we get to that game, his potential assists are down by like 3 per 36 minutes in the postseason. But I still think the over seems pretty good there. I like the over on assists for Vooch. He's at 3. I think he projects closer to 4. He does get a bit of a bump in usage percentage without Caruso and Levine as well. We know that he's a competent passer. So I like the over there.
Nice. So we got this power play. If we hit 2 out of 2, like both props are right, then we get 3x. So 20 to win 60. Pretty good odds. So I'm popping that in there, and hopefully we get this one right so we can all win some money on PrizePicks tonight. So if you're not already on PrizePicks, use that promo code Awesemo for free $100 and the free month of Awesemo Plus. All right, going to Milwaukee. So the Bucks, the only injury information here, is that George Hill is questionable, and like that seems like tricky to know that like if he is in, like will he be in the rotation even? So, I mean, Javon Carter has been getting good minutes recently. I'm not really sure if between the two of them who would get those minutes. That's the only injury situation. So do you have any take on George Hill tonight?
No, I don't. I have no idea if he even plays, if he's active.
Okay. Yeah, that's kind of how I feel. So it does make me a little bit less interested in Javon Carter because I think people are going to look at the 20 minutes he played last game and consider him. But let's start with the starters. So Giannis, he's he's MVP candidate every year, and this is no exception. Like with Chris Middleton out, he stands to get even more of the pie for Milwaukee if that's possible. So last game he played 35 minutes, but it wasn't super close. None of the starters really played all the fourth quarter minutes. So I'm seeing a potential getting up to 40 minutes in an elimination game. That's a pretty tough fade for Giannis, but there's some good alternatives. So how does he stack up?
Yeah, I mean, I think he looks really good. It's clearly him and Jokic at the top. For the series, he's averaging about 35 minutes per game. The one concern that I do have about Giannis and again, it's not a major concern, but it is worth mentioning when you have a game that's a 12-digit or 12-point spread. The Bucks have an incentive to get their guys off the floor as soon as they possibly can, if they're easily winning this game. Whereas we talked about it with the Bulls, like what reason would they have to just completely bench their starters and not make one last push at it? It's the opposite for Milwaukee. If they're up 30 after 3, they should be waiting as long as they can, hoping that they don't have to bring Giannis back in. You just get him a little bit more rest going into the next series. So I think the minutes, the blowout risk affects the minutes here a little bit more. But like you were saying before too, typically if your team is winning in a blowout fashion, you're producing at a higher rate as well. And even if you just go with the 35-minute average that Giannis has this series, he still projects extremely well for this price tag, and there is plenty of value on the slate as well.
Definitely. Yeah, I think Giannis is a great piece of any lineup, especially tonight. We got some good value to make that work. Where previous slates, we've seen some of these guys that have killer projections, but it's a little bit tough to make them fit. Tonight, it's not really the case. All right, we got a couple of super chats. Thank you, Justin. Is Rivers plus Jay Green? Okay, there's 2 Jay Greens, but I think like it's more likely to be Jeff Green. Okay, to play on FanDuel if you want Jokic and Giannis. So I mean, it's really tough to fit Jokic and Giannis. So you're gonna have to go to something like Rivers plus I think it's Jeff Green, but so I think it's okay because like those guys could carry your lineup for sure. What do you think?
I don't like it too much. I mean, like I said, I'm not setting a rule against it, or I wouldn't set a rule against it just because it's a 2-game slate. But oh yeah, that's a good point. If that's Javonte Green and Rivers, maybe. I mean, so I was my point regardless was going to be that you are still sacrificing 2 spots and you have a very strong mid range. But if it's Rivers, Javonte Green, I do have a little bit less of an issue with it. If it's Rivers and Jeff Green or JaMychal Green, then the issue is that I don't think there's a world where they're closing together.
That's true. Yeah, Rivers seems to pull minutes away from Jeff Green in the last couple of games, so I think that maybe a combo to avoid. But Javonte Green certainly a completely different game. So it depends on the Jay Green. All right, Zhao Lin sent us another super chat, so thank you. FanDuel GPP, which are the spend up / spend down positions tonight? If you needed another audio guide, Awesemo, I've got the resume. That's awesome, man. Uh, so
Can
I
he just
don't.
replace Jordan right now?
um, so I think the spend up and spend down positions, spend down, like I think point guard is clearly the spend down because you got Kobe White and Dosunmu, and then spend up like Giannis and Jokic. I think both are multi-position eligible. It's kind of funny, man. Like Jokic is center slash power forward on FanDuel.
Yeah, him and Embiid. I have no idea how.
That's pretty crazy. I guess it's because they shoot some threes. But yeah, I think is point guard your spend down.
Yeah, like you said, with the Sunmu and White both having point guard eligibility, there's just a lot of lineups they're going to pay down there. Like Drew Holiday being a point guard makes him look good, as well. So I'm not saying you should just like punt the position in every lineup or anything, but I do think paying down for like the two clearest values on the slate are White and the Sunmu, who you can roster both at point guard. You can
Yeah,
also roster the Sunmu at shooting guard.
that one's easy. All right. Going back to Milwaukee, I think Drew Holiday also stands to benefit with Chris Middleton out. And then Bobby Portis has been starting alongside Brook Lopez. Brook Lopez plays mostly from the outside and he doesn't rebound much. So I don't think that will really impact Portis's rates. So he seems always like a good option when he gets the minutes. But which of those three guys between Drew Holiday, Brook Lopez, and Bobby Portis would you prioritize tonight?
Holiday and Portis are very similar to me, and I have them pretty far ahead of Brook Lopez. Not to say Lopez can't have a good game, but Portis is a higher usage guy. He's rebounding at a really high rate in those couple of games that Middleton's been out. Not saying that necessarily replicates itself, but like you were saying, Brook Lopez really throughout his career, and he seems to always get knocked by like DFS people because they call him a bad rebounder just because like he doesn't rebound. He boxes out. He just doesn't care about actually grabbing the ball, and so it opens the door for Giannis or Portis to grab rebounds. So I think that you continue to see Portis out rebound Lopez. He's the better point per minute guy, and there's just not that big of a gap in price. You're only talking $800 on DraftKings, and I also think, I mean, we've kind of seen Portis, if anything, getting more minutes than Lopez. I think it's likely they kind of end up similar, but so that makes it so Drew and Portis, it kind of depends on what position and what salary you need, since they are different positions and different price points. But I have them both pretty firmly ahead of Giannis, or of Lopez, not of Giannis. That would be crazy.
Cool. Yeah, I agree with that. And Lopez being center only, that makes it a little bit tougher to get him. What about the rest of the Bucks? It looks like Grayson Allen, Wesley Matthews. We're expecting to get decent run, as well as Pat Connaughton.
Yeah, so I mean, the rest of the Bucks, Grayson Allen is absolutely shooting the lights out. He's only projected for 12% ownership. So it's actually kind of a tough spot because on the one hand, I don't think he projects that well. Like, he gets a bump in usage without Middleton, but you also can't expect him to continue shooting 78% from three or anything close to it. But he is likely to play 28 minutes. He is only 5,200 and he is only 12% owned. So it's a situation where it's like, I don't think he replicates what he's done so far. But at the same time, he's also shown that he's capable of doing it, and he's only getting 12% ownership. So somebody I think had just asked if you could use him as a pivot. You can, because he's 12% owned. I don't think you should be confident in it. I don't think he projects particularly well, but he is not getting much ownership here. Pat Connaughton at 3,800 getting 28% ownership. He actually, I think, projects pretty similarly to Grayson Allen. Their point per minute production is typically pretty similar, and you're just getting a huge discount on Connaughton, probably playing a couple minutes less, but I do like him as a value option at 3,800.
Nice. It sounds like you're trying to say in a nice way that Grayson Allen is a fish play.
I'm trying to talk myself into playing him because I know I'm not going to, and it's going to piss me off.
Well, the price seems to suggest that he's not the wisest allocation of salary cap tonight. I guess that's the nicest way I can say it. But Pat Connaughton does seem like a pretty good alternative. He is super cheap. He played about 27 minutes last game, only 3,800. So of all the guys sub 4K, I feel like that's one of the guys I feel pretty confident in with Chris Middleton out. What do you think?
I feel confident in the playing time. I don't feel confident at all in what he does on the floor, but he's just cheap enough where I think he's going to be pretty useful in lineups.
Yeah, that price point does help a lot. All right, guys. So before we get to the next game, I mean, DFS always fun, but it's even better when you build a killer lineup to take you to top. So we got a huge arsenal of tools on Awesemo, including player projections, ownership projections, and then the boom bust tool where you can easily find which players give you the edge. So you can get the NBA package for $16.95 a week, or the full site pass for $29.95. Or you can also claim that free month of our platinum membership by signing up for PrizePicks. So that's a nice little a low budget way to get your foot in the door with a package, is you take advantage of that $100 plus a free month with PrizePicks. So make sure to get that premium package if you don't already have it. Denver. So on Denver, no injury news to speak of. I think Jokic, everyone is going to be going to. And then the rest of the Nuggets is kind of like, I think the general feeling about the Nuggets is like, they're not that exciting, at least not any individual player. So how are you handling the Nuggets?
Yeah, I mean, it's really difficult to get too excited about anybody outside of Jokic. But there are some mid-range guys here that you can use at a little bit lower ownership. There's still a path to success for them. Jokic, clearly the priority. He's getting similar ownership to Giannis. I feel better about his playing time just because he is on the team that is going home if they lose. So I think he's less likely to be pulled early. Makes I think him look a little bit like as a tiebreaker. I think that's fine, but they project pretty similarly. The rest of the starters, I mean, Aaron Gordon, Will Barton, Monte Morris, in particular, they're all just kind of mid-range guys that don't look that good, but they're also not getting a ton of ownership. Barton and Gordon both coming in around 22%, Monte Morris coming in around 18. One of those guys can still certainly step up and have a big game here. It's just that I'm not confident in any of them doing it, and even if you tell me one does, I don't have any idea which one it happens to be. So it's more so just kind of using them to balance out the ownership in your lineup in a particular lineup than it is looking at Gordon, Barton, Morris and saying like, yeah, these are the guys I really want to get in there.
Yeah, definitely. These guys, they're not anything that you're going to get too overly excited about. And the thing that is challenging, I think, with the Nuggets tonight is that, like, they are going home if they lose, but like, it doesn't seem like they've been giving Will Barton and Aaron Gordon a lot more minutes in the playoffs yet. And Monte Morris, like, especially, like, he lost minutes last game because Bones Highland was having a good game. So I don't feel like tremendously confident that any of these guys will see high 30s in minutes. So like what are you anticipating from the rotation?
Yeah, I mean, Malone's rotation has been pretty frustrating, I think, in the postseason because, and like, I don't know the reasons. Maybe, just playing against Golden State is wearing them out. I don't know. But I'm expecting you get 34 to 36 minutes from Gordon. I'm expecting you get 34 to 36 minutes from Barton, probably like 32 from Morris, somewhere in there. So, I mean, it makes them look fine, but, you're just going to prioritize guys from other teams, I think. As far as Bones Highland goes, I think he's a somewhat interesting value option in tournaments. We have him projected for 22% ownership, so he is getting a lot less than Ayo Dosunmu at that price point. He's a high upside guy. Like, he can certainly provide that scoring spark off the bench like he did last game. The concern that I have is when you talk about somebody like Bones Highland, where he's averaging 17 minutes per game in this series. When you talk, but like is certainly capable of getting hot. The idea typically is that if he gets hot, he takes the place in the closing lineup of Austin Rivers. Last game, even with Highland playing really well, he still only played 20 minutes. Austin Rivers still closed that game. If Bones Highland's performance last game didn't get him on the floor down the stretch, I don't know what does. So, if he's not to say that like it's impossible that he plays more minutes, but it's a pretty strong indication that like you're probably not getting more than 20 minutes from him. And so at 4,300, there is still certainly upside, but I'd like him a lot more if I could be somewhat confident that him playing well means 24 minutes instead.
Yeah, that's kind of crazy that like he had a pretty good game and didn't get more minutes. So it was like I think there's a lot of gambling with these cheap guys because we know as a group they're likely to one of them might be in the winning lineup. So I'm kind of looking at Jeff Green at 3,400. He's been playing pretty poorly and not playing many minutes in the playoffs. And then you got Austin Rivers at 3,500, who got a lot of run last game, but that was kind of out of the blue. And then one of the guys that's kind of popping in our boom bust tool is Only 8% chance of boom, but 19% chance of optimal is DeMarcus Cousins, just that pure punt at 3,300. You said it last game, he got a pretty decent score, even though he didn't get the minutes. So that's in the realm of possibility. Like, would there be any punt play that you would be interested in here?
So Cousins, just because I mean, in this series, he's averaging 1.5 DraftKings points per minute. During the regular season, he's been a great point per minute guy all season long. With Denver in 31 games, he's at 1.42 DraftKings points per minute. So he's cheap enough where even if he does just get those 10 minutes behind Jokic, he's probably fine for his salary on a 2-game slate. But if anything happens to Jokic, Cousins is immediately like the best value. If Jokic were to like get ejected or something, there's I guess some chance. I think somebody in chat had said it earlier that Malone said that he wouldn't rule out playing Cousins alongside Jokic. I don't think he's creative enough for that. Like I'll believe it when I see it, but I guess there's a greater than 0% chance that happens, and just an unexpected thing that he gets more minutes that way. So I'm fine going to Cousins. I also don't mind taking shots on Austin Rivers. I think they do want him out there for defensive reasons. So I think that he's averaging 26 minutes per game in the series. He's also only averaging half a fantasy point per minute. Like he sucks from a fantasy standpoint. There's no way around it. But if you are 3,500 and have the potential to be on the floor for 30 plus minutes, there's some merit in going there.
Definitely. All right, we got a couple of super chats. So we got Abel Ramos. Thanks for the super chat. He says, Allen is now 11% owned. Is he now a pivot? Like, if it's DraftKings versus we have him at 11%, like, it just seems like that you need a ceiling game from the payoff of salary, which is pretty risky. I don't really think that's the best build. What do you think?
Yeah, I mean, it's not my preferred option, but I do think that at that ownership, I don't mind the play. If you told me he was like 20% and people were playing him, I would think it was an absolutely horrible play. Here he's low enough owned. I think it's basically just paying up to be contrarian. He has averaged 0.94 DraftKings points per minute without Middleton on the floor this year. Yet he has a 66.5% true shooting percentage over that stretch. That seems ridiculously high, but it's also like 814 minutes. So yeah, I mean, at 11%, I don't think he's like a good play. I'm not saying like, oh wow, that's too low and everybody should go jamming Grayson Allen. I do think that in a given lineup, he does at least have a ceiling at low ownership at that price.
Nice. Thanks, Sam, for the super chat. He says, debating playing today. What is likely of a solo winner in GPP? Seems tough with a 2-game slate. Seems hard to expect a decent ROI. Thoughts on this? So we kind of touched on that at the beginning, but I think odds are higher on DraftKings of a solo winner because there's more good lineups. At least that's my experience. So if that's all we're optimizing for, like that would be maybe a place to play or hit up a smaller site. But I think that like on DraftKings, if you avoid maybe like the 100 lineups that just like are too perfect, that are going to be duped a lot, like that might be enough. On FanDuel, you might have to avoid a wider range of lineups if you don't want to split too many ways. So I think it's easy to like know the lineups that are going to be duped a lot because you look at it and you're like, damn, this is like the most awesome lineup for today's slate, right? And like everyone knows who's been the best plays in playoffs. So that's not really an easy way to get a edge. So are there any lineups where you look at them and you're like, this is just too perfect?
No.
Well, 2-game slate, maybe you should think about it. So, all right. But like for instance, if you just put in the optimal lineup in a GPP with 29,000 people, like would you agree that's not a great approach?
Oh yeah. I mean, I was thinking perfect in the sense of like considering ownership too. Like,
Oh, okay.
yeah. Like I'm not throwing the optimal into a tournament.
Okay, got it. So yeah, it's like the further you deviate from that, like the more different you're going to be. That's going to increase your chances of a solo ship. So that's what we're all going for tonight. All right, we got the Awesemo Hall of Fame. So guys, if you want to win a free month of Awesemo Plus, what you got to do, go to awesemo.com/avatar. Download that avatar and make it your avatar on DraftKings, FanDuel, or whatever sites you're playing on. And then tweet your wins at Awesemo HOF to win a free month of Awesemo Plus. All right. So Wicked Mumbles, dang, he had a double shipper, the 4-point play and the shoot around, a total of 70K. Thursday and Saturday were fun. Have to give props for the tools and projection. Major props for our Jack, Wicked Mumbles for some killer takedowns there. Congrats. Okay, we got BK. He says there's really no reason to tweet this other than to say I might need one of those 1-800 numbers soon. I think he's referencing maybe 1-800 Eddie, who he had a ship last night. So shout out to Eddie. He's one of the co-founders at Awesemo. But aside from BK Napple, killer takedown with he actually, this was an in-game showdown, so that's like second half. I'm assuming $1,300, not bad. And then he tweeted us again with another win, $2,500 in the mid-range jumper, a different slate. So it looks like BK had a killer night where he won multiple tournaments and multiple slates. Very difficult to do, so congrats to BK. Marchwan, Big Mart, he won $4,500, placing first in the 4-point play. A large field tournament, that is an accomplishment, so congrats to Mart. AYT, this seems to be a trend, is that everyone is just shipping like a bunch of tournaments at once. So AYT took down 3 different tournaments on FanDuel for a total of 3,700. Congrats to AYT. And then Chris Greslak, thanks for the advice. Strong ROI. He got $600 for first. I think that's a $1 contest on FanDuel. So major props to Chris. Congrats to all the Hall of Fame guys here. And if you're not already rocking the avatar, that's a good way to win a free month of Awesemo Plus. All right, let's get to Golden State here. So rumor is they're going to start Poole and Curry tonight. And that makes a lot of sense to me. I didn't think they would start Looney because like they already like have Draymond Green, who plays at center a ton. So it just seems unnecessary. So are you anticipating Poole and Curry both to start and then Looney to be benched?
I'm not really sure. I know they said that they were strongly considering it. My take the whole series had been that maybe they would do that after they lost the game. I still think there's a decent chance that they just win this game and then start next round. But I don't think it makes a big difference anyway, because like even if Looney starts, you're talking about like 10, 11 minutes. I'm not looking to play him regardless. And even if Curry comes off the bench, he played 37 minutes off the bench last game. He's going to play a lot regardless. I think he's a good play, whether he's starting or not. So I don't really know what I expect them to do. It kind of just feels like a toss up to me, but I also don't think it matters.
Agreed. Yeah, if Looney plays off the bench, like he's probably going to get the same 10 minutes he's going to get if he starts, because that's what he's been getting as a starter the last few. So I don't necessarily see it as a huge deal. Like if Poole came off the bench, I think like that would lower his minutes by a couple probably, but nothing crazy. But I think one of the big questions is Steph Curry. Like he played 36 minutes last game. They said there's no minutes restriction. So I think it's a green light for Steph here in DFS. What do you think?
Yeah, I really like Steph here. Very reasonable price tag for 37 minutes, give or take, from Steph. Only 28% ownership too. I mean, you do have to keep in mind this is the Milwaukee equivalent, where if Golden State is just easily winning this game, then you're probably not getting Steph down the stretch. But and they can certainly win it with like Klay Thompson doing well or something like that. But I do really like Steph at 9K, and he's not getting that much ownership here. So whether he's starting or not, I like him quite a bit.
Nice. Yeah, 9K for Steph. That's a great price, and the minutes seem to be pretty good here. The potential. Now the rest. So I think the main question I have is like Jordan Poole, if they both start. Like it seems that he might take more of a back seat tonight than he has been. But he's been on a killer tear. So I don't think that's a guarantee by any means. What are you thinking would happen if they do start Poole and Curry together?
I don't think it changes a ton just because Curry is already playing a lot of minutes, but I mean, it's certainly for whatever minutes Poole is playing with Curry, it hurts his production. We have him at 26% projected ownership. His salary did come down a bit to 7,400. I think that it's likely that you get, mid 30s from him again. So I don't mind him in tournaments, but I do think that just, as Curry plays more minutes, you're going to get less usage for Poole. Last game, only 16% usage for Poole. I think that you see it higher than that going forward, but I don't think he maintains the 25% usage rate that he's had all series either.
Yeah, definitely. So, I mean, he's really shown he's got some mad chops. So, 7,400 does seem like a pretty reasonable price, assuming he starts. So, what about the other starters? Klay Thompson, Wiggins, and Draymond Green, if we're assuming Looney comes off the bench. Like, as we talked about, it probably doesn't matter a ton.
Yeah, I mean, I think Thompson, Green, and Wiggins all just look like pretty neutral to me. Green's likely to give you 34 plus minutes, assuming the game's competitive. Same goes for Thompson. He had some first half foul trouble last game, but it's likely that you see him bounce back and get into the mid 30s. Wiggins, probably the least exciting of that group, but also the least expensive at 5,900. I think that I'm kind of just mixing and matching these guys in. I do like the mid range guys on Golden State more than I like the mid range guys on Denver.
Definitely. Yeah. I mean, these guys seem like pretty viable options tonight. Klay Thompson, 7,100, reasonable price. Draymond Green as well, in that same range. Now, one of the guys that I'm kind of intrigued by, Andre Iguodala is out tonight, so I'm kind of zeroing in on Otto Porter a little bit because he did play in the low 20s in 3 of the first playoff games. So, uh, like I don't feel great about having him a ton, but he's 3,900 on DraftKings. What are you gonna do with Otto Porter?
I do think that he could see a few more minutes with Iggy being out here. I also think that Gary Payton could play a little bit more, and maybe you see a little bit more for Bielitsa. But 3,900 for Porter, I do like that. I do like taking some shots there as a value. He's getting less ownership than Pat Connaughton, which I think is interesting because Connaughton I feel more confident in the minutes, but I feel a little bit more confident in Porter's production when he's on the floor. So I do think that's kind of an interesting pivot. Not that you're getting a huge ownership gap there, but if you have a lineup that's already a little bit more popular than you would like, maybe using Porter instead of Connaughton makes some sense.
Nice. And then, okay, so besides those guys, like I'm having trouble like landing on any Warriors. I do think Payton is like a deep sleeper maybe because we have him projected for 11 and a half fantasy points at 3,300. I mean, it's just kind of like, does he outscore like Cousins and the other guys at that range? So is that someone you'd consider?
Yeah, like he'll show up a little bit for me. Like I'm gonna have him projected high enough that he gets into lineups. I don't feel confident in his playing time. He did sub out, like for example, last game in the second half, he subbed out for Iggy. So there's at least a chance. Like if you look at those rotations, which I just lost. So trying to pull that back up. But if you look at those rotations, there's at least a chance where like I'm expecting Porter to get more minutes that ends up being Gary Payton instead. I don't think it's the most likely case, but it's certainly possible. And so even though Payton only played 6 minutes last game, maybe you see him get up to like 15, 16, which he's about a fantasy point per minute guy.
Nice. Yeah, he's like showing up as 8% owned, 10% optimal Payton. So a guy that I wouldn't be too excited about, but that could be a differentiation play. I'm not afraid to go to him. Guys, I just realized that Josh Engleman is on the next show. So if you can hit the like button before he gets on there, I'm pretty sure he's going to do some like shaming. So if we can get to at least 420 likes in the next 2 minutes, I appreciate that, guys. So thank you. We got a full hour and a half of content coming all the way up to lock, and then talking some picks after that. Guys, if you can hit that like and subscribe button, that helps us out a lot. Okay, we just got George Hill's out tonight, so maybe Javon Carter is somewhat interesting. We'll the guys on before we lock break it down, Eric and Josh, and then make sure to check out our sponsor PrizePicks if you haven't already. Get that free month of Awesemo Plus. Guys, good luck and stay tuned.
Jordan Klein, no bullshit today. All right. What is going on, everybody? Welcome to the NBA Live Before Lock Show presented by PrizePicks. I'm Eric Lindquist, excited to be talking this 2-game NBA slate, different than the 3 and 4 gamers we've had in days of yore. But also, speaking of days of yore, it's been a hot second since I did a show with my co-host today, Josh Engleman, at Josh Engleman on Twitter. That's easy enough. How you doing, stranger?
I'm good, man. I'm good. Yeah, I got tagged in today for Greg. I hope everything's okay. I have no idea why it happened. I just got asked. I was like, yep, that works for me. I got nothing else going on today. That's perfect. So we're here to talk 2 games. If we're lucky, Milwaukee just smacks Chicago. Golden State just smacks Denver. And we get closer and closer to having a full Sunday off of NBA. So I can just not worry about it.
Don't say things like that and then not have them come to fruition. That would be too good.
We got to, honestly, the only thing that we're really worried about at this point is Memphis, Minnesota. That could be potentially, it's these 2 games in Memphis, Minnesota as game 7s on Sunday. I would prefer to see none of those 3 things happen.
As a lifelong Minnesota fan, I want that game to go, or I want it to go 7. I mean, come on, I'll be okay working on Sunday if it's for a game 7 Minnesota Memphis. I'm just fine with that. Just like I'd be just fine if all of you guys smash that like button. I know that Alex tried to save it there at the end, but and plus I'm here with Josh. I have to ask for likes right off the bat. Actually, can you just do the plug for me? You're better at it than me anyway.
Will do. Yeah. So honestly, 400 is not bad for Alex and for Adam. Honestly, I would have expected a little bit more. I'm going to blame chat, and I'm not going to blame my boss for this one. That seems a little bit safer. But now that they're gone, you guys have no choice. Hit the damn like button. There are 1,500 people in here. We have less than a 33% ratio of likes. That is not nearly enough. We hold everyone to a higher standard. So please just hit the like button. It's not hard. It costs you nothing. Just hit the like button.
We hold people to higher standards. Why isn't half of chat gone into the abyss?
I mean, because they won't let me do that.
Oh, that's probably the right answer. On that
you're
note,
asking,
hey,
you're
Sean,
asking the wrong
good
person.
to see you, buddy. Good to see
I'm
you,
ready.
my friend.
I would clean this whole crew out if I could.
You're like all of the evil villains on Marvel movies that just want to save the universe, remove half of existence, and just clean it out.
I would keep everybody that watches the Process show every morning at 6:30 a.m.
There
Those people are the best people.
Yeah, that's true. It's a good crew. There's times where, yes, back when I was writing articles, it would be 3 a.m. and my eyes are bloodshot, and all of a sudden you're going live in North Carolina. I have no idea what's going on with my life, but these are good times now. Get to at least sleep a little bit, but let's get to it, my friend. It's NBA time. It's the best time of the year. NBA playoffs. It's your baby. It's my baby. What sticks out to you right from the get-go before we dive into this slate?
We have to play a lot of the Bulls, which does not feel like an ideal scenario when they're about to get smacked by the defending champs and they're double-digit underdogs. Yet here we are. So apparently the theme for today is rostering Chicago Bulls and hoping they do enough to keep it competitive.
Well, let's just dive right into them specifically. I know we go position by position on the show, guard, forward, center, but 2 of the main plays on this slate are at the guard position. Kobe White, Ayo Dosunmu, 4,500 and 4,400 respectively on DK. Over on FanDuel, I think it's kind of the same situation where we're just kind of figuring out who we want to play more of. I find it impossible if you're making more than one lineup that you're not going to have shares of both guys. But who do you prefer between the 2?
Both. I mean,
I know it's a weird question, but I feel like I have to ask it.
At this moment, I have 100% Kobe White and 97.8 Dosunmu. So I guess I prefer White.
By 3%, even though it's basically a max out. I mean, yesterday was an Oladipo max out. That was fun. Bam Adebayo was a max out. That was fun. Just, it's that same situation, just cheaper players, and they're going to play 36 plus minutes. If there's one of them that you think fails in this spot, that doesn't end up optimal, that might be the better one. Which one are you fading? Or which one are you more uncomfortable having 90+% of?
I mean, it's got to be Dosunmu just because he's a worse per minute guy. Not that Kobe White has been great shakes on a per minute basis. 0.81 is the baseline rate that I have for him in my model. It was higher before the season started. I think it helps to just have only DeRozan and Vooch out there. Like nobody else is a usage guy. So I think he'll be able to take the shots that he normally wants to take. Whereas Dosunmu could just sort of fall into the background here. So if I had to prioritize one over the other, it would be Kobe White, but I don't see them as all that different of plays today. I think Kobe White has to play the minutes.
Okay.
Whereas I think Dosunmu can pretty easily become somebody else and not get to, 36. Like if he played 26 and there were just 10 more minutes to Troy Brown or Derek Jones or maybe Javonte Green, I don't think that would be the craziest scenario in the world. I don't know how they take Kobe White off the court. He might play. I have him in for 34 minutes. If you told me he played 40, that would make sense to me. They just don't have that type of guy out on the floor here. I mean, maybe you consider that to be Dosunmu, but in the playoffs, I don't think you want him to be the primary creator. I think everybody's just going to go under on everything, and you're not really going to create all that much from any sort of pick and roll action. So if the ball's not going to be in Dosunmu's hands, I think Kobe White has to just be out there all the time. And I assume Kobe White plays every single second that DeRozan is not on the floor.
Agreed with that too. I think Kobe White I'm much more comfortable with. Io, he's the guy that I think more than likely, if one of the two fails, it would be him in this spot, because there's certain guys that can come in off the bench. Specifically, I don't know what to make of Javonte Green today. And I know he's at small forward over on DK, and I don't really give a shit. I want to ask you about him right from the get-go, because if one of these two guys fails, you basically are going to build that lineup with some other piece of Bulls value. At least I am, I think, on a two-gamer. I have to be looking at him. God forbid Troy Brown's actually a thing today. If he ends up being a thing, I quit. But Javonte Green, is he somebody that you're landing on at all today?
Yeah, I'm basically just with the public. We have Javonte Green at 23.5% in ownership, or at least that's where he was on the last run. Not that I would expect anything to have changed dramatically. Oh, we just got ownership a minute ago, just in case you want to refresh that. But I can't imagine Javonte Green's number changed all that much without any news or anything like that. So
without he is starting, hi everyone kind of piece of news. But
okay, so he's at 21%. If I refresh this now, I have 19.6. So I am basically spot on the field for Green. Makes me a little nervous to have as much Dosunmu as I have. Like if I gave Javonte Green one more minute and took one away from Dosunmu, I'm still getting Dosunmu in like 80% of lineups, but I think that would pretty dramatically increase the amount of Javonte Green I would get. We'll see if I want to do that. That might be a 7 o'clock task, not a 6:41 task. No reason for me to do it now. If we get the starting lineup that I expect, White, Dosunmu, DeRozan, Williams, and Vooch, then I'm just going to keep everything I have here. I think 22 minutes for Javonte Green is enough.
I think that's fine. Are you playing mainly DraftKings or FanDuel today?
DK today.
DK, okay. Because I'm looking at Javonte Green 3,500 FanDuel. I think there's some extra utility where you're able to play actual Giannis and actual Jokic lineups that make sense. Maybe that's kind of the keystone that other people are using to get there too, but doesn't feel like it looking at sub 20% ownership on FanDuel. So I'm just kind of hoping that he falls into enough minutes. I mean, there's an opportunity for him to put up 14 and work out optimal if you get 70 burgers out of Giannis and Jokic. So it's one of those feelings where you then have to look at DeRozan. You have to look at these mid-range options. Of course, Curry is the guy who can go up and muck up everything for you at the top end if he goes completely Super Saiyan. So I find it as a piece on FanDuel that I'm landing on simply because he gives me that opportunity to just play another guy at the floor who I'm pretty certain sees at least 18 minutes.
Yep. I don't have an issue with that at all. It's a little bit different on FanDuel. You get that shooting guard, small forward eligibility, which helps. And then you just have that extra flexibility of if you need to, or if you can, playing Jokic at power forward. It just opens things up a little bit different on FanDuel. So yeah, no problem going to him there.
Well, let's talk about the top end guys over at guard on DraftKings, where you're playing today. I'm playing today. A lot of you guys are playing over there today. Seems to be the prevailing thing. Pretty popular site. Steph Curry, 9K. Drew Holiday, 8,600. Zach LaVine out. Jordan Poole, 7,400. Klay Thompson, 7,100. Of the 7K plus players, who are you getting to the most of at the top end on DK?
Great question. Let's find out.
I've gotten better at this in a year and a half sometimes, but also,
there we go.
You know, it's one of those things where it's just fun having you as the analyst on stuff. It's like, I don't know. Normally Greg's in his little zone. He's like, oh, that was a stupid question. You said great question. That was pouring to my ears. Keep going.
I mean, I'm not going to lie. I like being in the analyst seat because I don't have to prepare a run sheet before this starts. So I feel like I don't have to care as much. I get to play my role of Adam Scherer where I do nothing before the show starts.
That piece of shit. Baseball run sheets. No baseball at all this year?
Not yet.
Okay, just wait. You want to talk run sheets? Let's saddle up, partner. Look at Jordan Glenn. He's like, yeah, a little bit of that. Who are you getting into the most to? 7K plus on DK.
Jordan, just so you know, when I get to baseball, you'll get exactly what I want in that run sheet. My run sheets are generally informative enough, I guess, but whatever. It's baseball. Nobody cares. I'm pretty light at the top. I'm under the field on Steph. I'm under the field on Drew Holiday. I'm under the field on Jordan Poole. Where I'm not under the field, Klay Thompson is the guy that I'm getting to. He's making up for being light on everybody ahead of him. I got him in for 35 minutes at 7,100. I'm just going to hope that he does normal Klay stuff and shoots the lights out. I don't really have like much of a lean or anything like that. I just sort of like Klay more than I like everybody else. 1.01 fantasy points per minute over the past 30 days. That's largely the playoffs in the final few games, but I like that at 7,100. I wish he had small forward eligibility. It's preposterous to me that he doesn't, at which point I would probably have even more Klay. So I guess I don't really need it. But for right now, Klay Thompson is the guy that I'm getting to most at the top end of guard.
I mean, me too, but it's pretty safe to say the reason is that you have two other guys that are super values at point guard and you're playing a ton of them, right? So
yeah, I'm already filling White and Dosunmu into two guard spots in basically everything. So it's kind of boxing me out of the Curry Holiday Poole group.
Do you have a lean between Poole and Curry at pretty much identical ownership?
I have more Curry. I think Poole is probably a little bit overpriced, especially if we're getting Curry starting here. Not that I think it matters because he played 36 minutes the last time anyway, but if they're alongside of each other, I think that's just generally bad for Poole. It's probably bad for Curry too. It's just a lot of usage on the floor at the exact same time. Probably bad for Klay, now that I say it out loud.
Yeah, one game sample size though, 15.8% for usage for Jordan Poole last time out, and you're just getting more minutes for Curry. That's going to be just what happens here, but Something tells me Steph Curry might get a lot of attention just because of his last game out, just going completely nuts. And, as these minutes ramp up, I'm assuming we're going to see him in the starting unit. I don't know. Something tells me I should just get to a little bit more Jordan Poole as I'm pulling it out, but I don't have a strong lean going to either one of them. The two main spend ups we're going to be talking about are forward center. So Steph Curry is going to be more contrarian for me in my lineups. I have a little bit more Jordan Poole as I'm just kind of fixing through things right now. That kind of makes sense to me. Monty Morris is kind of on an island of his own, 5,400 on DK. Just kind of sits there in a spot where I don't find myself getting like any Will Barton whatsoever. I really don't think we need to play Monty Morris with how much value we have from the Bulls side, but feels like a guy who's been pretty involved in this series for better or for worse. 16% ownership here. I don't know if I want to get to any of him whatsoever. Is he somebody you have any shares of today?
Not a lot. And he's the guy that I was pretty over the field on earlier in the series. I thought just universally, I thought he was getting under projected from a minutes perspective. But I have 6.5% today. Again, it's really hard for me to have anybody given the amount of Kobe White and Dosunmu that I have and Klay at this point too. We have one other guy that I'm pretty heavy on. The rest of these guys are either guys that I'm basically fading or just guys that I'm near the field on.
Well, I'll just let you have the floor with that. You have one other guy at guard that is somebody that you're heavy on?
Yeah, Pat Connaughton at 3,800. Okay. Adam was talking about him a little bit before our show started when on the deeper dive. And at the time, I had even more. So I knocked him back from a minutes perspective. I bumped up Grayson Allen a little bit more. I still didn't get to Grayson Allen, but I have Pat Connaughton in about half of what I'm doing. At 3,800, like his minutes are safe. George Hill is now officially out. So maybe we'll see his ownership go up a little bit, but we know what he's going to do. We know how he plays. At 3,800, he just feels like one of the safer options because he's not the total fantasy point per minute calamity that some of these other guys are. He's not great. 0.74 is my baseline rate. And that's about where I have him, but he's not Wes Matthews, I guess is the easiest way to say it.
It's a quarter better than Wes Matthews. So I'm with you where I think that he'd be the priority in terms of guys to get to. I was hand building out some stuff too, just to kind of see where people might land on a lot of lineups where they are playing Io, they are playing Kobe White. Felt like Pat Connaughton was a guy that pretty easily landed in some of those lineups. Wes Matthews, though, I don't want to do it. I think there's just not really a point. I would rather play Gary Payton the second, I think, than landing on some inordinate amount of shares of Wes Matthews.
I have 8% Wes Matthews, which is about as much as I would like to have.
Just 8% into the ether. That's fine. Is there any love for a guy like Bones Highland? Any other cheapie that you might have your eye on at the guard spot?
I don't have any Bones. That's my second biggest fade at guard behind Jordan Poole.
Oh, I have 0 Grayson Allen, so there's that. If he beats me, he beats me.
Same. Basically, I basically don't have Jordan Poole, Bones Highland, Grayson Allen. That's it for anybody that actually has any real ownership. And then I've already mentioned light on Drew Holiday, light on Steph Curry. And that's just a lineup construction thing. Basically, every lineup I have has Dosunmu, Kobe White, and one of, at the minimum, Connaughton or Klay Thompson. So I just don't have a ton of guard left over after that.
And it's not only that, it's like there's going to be on a 2-gamer like this, you're going to need to be near perfect. But I also don't want to just spread myself so thin by having a little bit of all of these guys. I think I'm with you where I think guard is pretty concentrated, and I'll open up the board a little bit more at the forward spot.
Yep, we're on the same page.
All right, cool. I like that. I appreciate that. We're also on the same page. This is a pretty great spot to go get your tools and content from. $29.95 for the weekly pass here at Awesemo Plus, $4.95 for the NBA package. We're obviously in full swing still with the NBA. We're talking it every single day throughout these entire playoffs. If there is a game, we will have content for it here on the YouTube streets. But if you want everything we have behind the paywall, that is ownership projections, that is player projections, the boom bust tool, the lineup builder, and so much more. $29.95 for that week package. Stop guessing, start winning, and join us here at Awesemo Plus today. To the forward spot we go, and this is where we talk about the 2 studs on the slate. Giannis or Jokic, pick one, go.
Giannis, but not like I feel great about it. I mean, I've got 56% Giannis. I've got 30% Jokic. I wish I had something like fun to say. You kind of got to win.
It's not fun. It's no. You have to you want to inherently make a stand, but this is one of those things where one of the 2 of them is going to be the highest scorer on this slate, such a ridiculous percentage of the time, comparable to any other 2-game slate you're going to run into. Like, it's just insane how many times. And I think the guy who's more likely to fail between the 2 is Giannis. But I think it's also more likely that he's the guy that you just need because of positionality.
Yeah, the position helps a ton here. I don't really I have 65.8 fantasy points to Giannis. I have 64.3 to Jokic. Jokic is $200 cheaper. As far as I'm concerned, these are basically the exact same guy. The only reason that I don't have more Nikola Jokic is because he's only center eligible on DraftKings. If he had the power forward eligibility as well, I guess that I would have basically the same amount of both of them. It's just easier to roster Giannis than it is to roster Jokic, especially because we didn't get to it yet, but we're going to. Nikola Vucevic looks exceptional to me, and I have a lot of him as well. To get to Vooch in this particular scenario, it just means that I have slightly less of the rest of the center. So I'm funneled to Giannis by default here.
Yeah, because you could get 60 out of Jokic, but if you get 50 out of Vooch, there's such utility to that. And that's where I'm saying the positionality, there's just nothing close for me for Giannis at the power forward spot. Now, DeRozan is an interesting talking point because he's a guy that just in terms of real life basketball, it was incredible the streak that he went on during the course of this season. But come playoff time, when you're clamping down and you get a Milwaukee Bucks defending champion defense, just basically centered around one guy, you have Levine banged up here for the last 2 months. We're going to find out a lot about what happened with Levine here over the offseason, because I think there's a lot of things going on with that knee, but that's just, tinfoil hat season. But DeMar DeRozan, is he a guy that you're getting to above or below the 46% number on DK?
Basically the same, 43.5. So
there you go. Just
spot on
hold
the number.
Hands.
Yeah. I would have had a little bit more. I had him in for 42 minutes, and I heard Adam mention 40, and I was just like, I just might have too much DeRozan in this spot. So I walked him back to 40, and that has put me basically neutral to the field, which I don't know. It's fine. I'm taking a way bigger stand on Vooch than I am on DeRozan.
Okay. Yeah.
DeRozan sees a giant, Vooch sees a giant increase to his usage now with no Levine out there. And I'm hoping that is actually the case. And I think the matchup fits him a little bit better. The things that the Bucks like to give up, threes above the break is sort of where they funnel everything. I think that fits Vooch very well in this series. We saw it happen a little bit earlier too. Not that I think it's going to go well for Chicago today, but I think Vooch is going to get the looks and get the shots. And if he does, then I just got to hope they go in. They didn't for Dylan Brooks yesterday.
37% usage for DeMar DeRozan and just 1,250 minutes with Zach LaVine off the floor this season. Vooch 28, but think about all the other things that Vooch can do that DeRozan can't. It's just, for me, I want to get to a lot of Vooch at center. I'm with you in that regard. I have a lot of Jokic too. I don't think he's going to go completely forgotten for me. I'm going to have 30+%, but I'm with you. I think Giannis is the guy that I prioritize. Getting to a little bit less than you in terms of DeMar DeRozan. I'm getting around 28% right now. I'm okay just kind of staying at that number. And there isn't a whole heck of a lot else to like in this mid-range of forward. I guess Draymond Green, real life basketball, yay. Less so from fantasy when he's 6,700 on DK, Andrew Wiggins. And I'll catch up on these super chats after this. But talk to me, anybody from 5K to 6,700, I'll add Patrick Williams into that mix. Anybody that you want to prioritize at this mid-range of forward?
I appreciate you putting Patrick Williams into this mix because Patrick Williams would be the answer to my question.
There you go.
Mostly because there isn't anyone in the 4Ks based on what I'm looking at right now for forwards. So we had a pretty easy line in the sand. I'm 2x the field on Williams. And it's mostly just because I feel like the Bulls are a requirement to a degree. Like Patrick Williams already plays a lot. They're missing two guys that are going to play 70 plus minutes together at the very least in Caruso and Levine. I don't see this as a scenario where Patrick Williams is going to suddenly play less than he normally does, unless this one just goes so badly that he's just not out there. So I gave him 32 minutes. I think there's upside on that number. And if that's the case at 5K, I'm not the biggest fan of him, but he probably has to do a little bit more without Levine out there on the floor. So I am 2x the field on Williams. He's actually the forward that I am most over the field on.
Wow. Okay. Well, I like that stand. You might as well make a stand the team that's depleted. I'm okay with that. Patrick Williams kind of falling into lineups, 5,600. Somebody else I saw in chat earlier said, oh, he's going to be the DeAndre Hunter of today. No, he's not. No, he's not. He's not going for 56.
I mean, I hope he does, but I don't. That's not exactly something I expect.
Yeah, I was going to say he doesn't have an inept Trae Young and no Bogdanovich out there and more free reign. But I digress. Let's catch up on some super chats. We'll talk some cheapies forward. We'll talk some prize picks, and we'll head to the half hour. We're sticking around for half an hour. Josh and I are. Again, thank you so much to him stepping up here, filling in for Greg today. The man, the guy, he started this channel. Let's be serious. Michael McKinney, $2. My usual FanDuel cash question. So he always asks 3 pieces of value, 2 pay-ups. Kobe White, Io DeSumo, those are freebies. So give me 1 piece of value and 2 pay-ups that you prefer for today.
Yeah, obviously, White and DeSumo are the value options you're looking for sure. If we're talking pay-ups, I'm going to go to Jokic over Giannis. I don't think there's a right answer. If you can somehow fit them both, it's not something that I've tried to do yet. But if Giannis and Jokic both fit and you still have the Kobe Whites and the DeSumos of the world, that's certainly the way to go. Honestly, let me just run a FanDuel crunch here just to see what my optimal actually is. I don't have
shits and gigglies.
I don't have a clue. So it'll probably inform my decisions a little bit more if I just
Otto Porter's 3,700. If you want to talk about a ridiculous low piece of value, I don't feel great about it. He's really over-owned, I think, for the slate for tournaments. But in cash, he's playing cash, 3,700 Otto Porter. I'd probably land on as the 3rd piece of value. And then for me, I would probably just plug in Vooch at center. I know it feels uncomfortable. And then you play Giannis.
That's what I'm expecting to see when I click this and look at my optimal is Vooch as the center, Giannis, and no sign of Jokic. But let's find out because there's no reason. We have plenty of time. There's no reason at all to just guess.
Eternal.
So my optimal is, well, that's different. Monty Morris, DeSumo, Will Barton, Kobe White, Giannis, Porter, Jokic, Portis, Vooch. So I've got Jokic and Giannis in my optimal. So I am going to say that Jokic and Giannis are the two guys that I want to get to then.
Who is the other power forward that you said?
Portis.
Okay. So this leads it into the Goody 23-23. He didn't give a site. So I guess we could just assume we could probably answer for both. He says one lineup, $1.99. Would you play Portis or Draymond? He already has ABC, whatever that means. So I don't care. Like Portis isn't going to, it's not going to deter me. It's not going to turn me from playing Portis though.
One lineup, would I play Portis or Draymond? Have Giannis. I would, if it's a DraftKings question, I would play Draymond over Portis. If it's a FanDuel question, I would play Portis over Draymond because Portis is $1,200 cheaper on FanDuel.
Same exact answer. Xylon Verse, $5, FDGPP. Any thoughts on a rule not allowing Dosunmu and White in the same lineup, and best way to get different on a two-gamer? Thanks, guys. Hashtag Engleman 2024. You're invading on Emacs turf.
Yeah, I don't think that I'm going to be allowed to be a president based on the things that I've done in my life. I don't know. I guess that's all went out the window 4 years ago. So I've made some terrible decisions in my life, but we've definitely had presidents that have been worse. So maybe I can appreciate the thought process there. Absolutely not on a rule for Dosunmu and White to not be in a lineup together. To me, that's impossible. Like, I think you're just boxing yourself out of too likely of combinations at that point.
Mm-hmm.
Like, so would you have like obviously if you're playing 150 lineups, you'll have some lineups that don't have the two of them together and it's just one or the other. That's totally fine. I just wouldn't want to set anything up before that to stop it. Like, they're the two best plays on the slate for a reason. You don't normally win a ton of money when you try to not have them together.
Full starting lineup.
Oh God, really?
Yeah.
Tristan Thompson?
Nope.
Dosunmu, DeRozan, Green, Williams, Vooch. Oh, this is going to be bad. I hope he's not still in the chat.
This is brutal. Who's still in the chat?
I wasn't very nice earlier. So.
I can't imagine that. Landed low, $5. Josh Engleman, you on MySpace ? I don't get what that is, but it's $5.
I wasn't on MySpace even when MySpace was a thing. I had a burner MySpace to see things that I needed to see, but I never used MySpace. I was a Facebook guy.
The dark web. What were you doing on MySpace? There's so many places my mind went. Jordan Klein's mind went there too. Look at him. He's worried about you. He's worried. You've seen some things. I hustle for it $5.
Wait, hold on. What's my issue here?
You get on MySpace. You got a burner MySpace.
Well, yeah, I wanted to track the chicks that are in college and stuff like that. But I had no interest in like picking a top 8 and making sure that I had the new Fall Out Boy song on there. So I was good.
I hustle for it $5 just cause. No need to shout me out. Just keep rolling. No, I had to give you the shout out because you did nice things for us. Abel Ramos, $1.99. What starting Warriors plays Denver's second unit? So what starting Warrior plays Denver's second unit? I mean, Poole's going to play the second unit in that first get-go, I'm assuming.
I mean, kind of everybody. There's no
everybody.
There's not really like a second unit in the playoffs.
No, everybody's playing 36 plus minutes on that starting unit. Well, everybody outside of who that fifth starter is, but doesn't really matter. Poole.
Right, let's talk through this Bulls bullshit here. So
it's absurd. It's absurd.
All right. I think that Kobe White has to close.
Does he though? Because this is.
I think they're trying to make sure that they have shot creation in like waves throughout the entire game. So it's sort of like not starting Steph Curry. You know what I mean?
You just
like
compared
homeless
Kobe White
version
to Steph Curry.
Yeah. So
yeah, I get it. This is just so fucked though. I mean, Kobe White. I mean, this is going to be so hard to figure out what I want to do because I have him for 34 minutes. And I mean, are people going to be hitting eject so hard in the next 27 minutes to the point where you get a 30% Kobe White? Or is it something where he's still going to be 50% owned? And then you could be running into 24 minutes.
I think I'm going to treat him like he's Tyler Hero. Oh, Unreliable Expert just said the exact same thing. Yeah, I'm going to treat him like he's Tyler Hero. I'm going to give him about 30 minutes now. I think 32 would be pretty reasonable. And obviously you can still, like, I'm still going to be playing a ton of Kobe White. I think 24 for Javonte Green feels about right. Maybe 20. Maybe we'll go 26. I'm certainly going to have a lot more Javonte Green than I had before.
Yeah. I mean, I liked Javonte Green in terms of his utility on FanDuel. He's 3,500 on FanDuel, and he just got ridiculously more popular.
Well, let's
I'm going through box scores. Javonte Green, why are you doing this? Why would you be the guy to start? How many minutes are you going to give Javonte Green is the big question.
I just gave him 28.
Feels high to me. I
don't think he's like not on. If he's starting today, I don't think he's just not on the floor from his last rotation at the end of the third quarter to never again. So that makes me think that I think it's a lot easier to play Javonte Green more minutes than want to play more minutes for Troy Brown.
True.
I just don't think they have
fair.
enough different places to go.
I mean, Derek Jones Jr. is the guy that now becomes kind of the contrarian bull, where he's going to be the guy falling way, way down. He's been in that first rotation in for the Bulls the last couple games. Hasn't really had any utility on those slates because there were more games involved. But 3,100 Derek Jones Jr. I mean, is he going to be coming on with Kobe White there in that first wing? 3,100. How many minutes am I going to give him? I'm going to go to 17 for Derek Jones. I'm going to give him a couple minutes, mainly because I thought if Kobe White started, he was going to play 35, 36 minutes, right? I gave him 34. So if we go 30, we go Javonte Green, 26, 28. You said 28 is the number?
Yeah, I think so.
Okay. I want to play some more Derek Jones Jr.
Interesting.
I think Derek Jones Jr. becomes the guy. So, I mean, he's been in that first rotation. It's not like he hasn't been a part of the rotation. And if there's going to be any kind of an issue with Javonte Green, I mean, he had been starting a lot at the beginning of this season. I mean, he was like basically the full-time starter starting end of November until end of March. So it's not like this is an unforeseen thing where it's just, oh my God, but it's frustrating to come playoff time. They decide to start Javonte Green. I just don't think Troy Brown plays at any considerable amount of minutes. I'm going to go a little bit more Derek Jones Jr. because I think you think about it from a real life perspective too. I mean, he's at least athletic enough to do some things that I just don't want to play a super chalk Javonte Green at 38, 45% or whatever we get in our next run.
Yeah, I think that's reasonable. Oh my God. How many Bulls are you willing to have in a lineup on DraftKings?
I mean, I'm willing to have 5 now. You could run into, let me see. I have to take off my cap because I had a number of them here.
In my crunch right now, the Bulls are 5 of my first 6 spots. White is still up there at 30. Dosunmu is still up there. Vooch is still up there. Javonte Green is now in that same boat, as obviously is DeRozan. And then Giannis is the only other guy that's piercing that group of 5.
Oh my God. Well, I'm going to wait for the ownership to revamp here because something tells me it's going to get wonky here. We'll jump to these super chats. Jorge Yakum, $5. How much of Otto Porter is good to have in 150 lineups for a DK GPP? Very different than FanDuel, where he's 3,700. And who are the 4K below guys you like? Well, I don't know if like is the operative word. I can tolerate all of these guys that just kind of got thrust into our lives in a more meaningful fashion. Javonte Green, Derek Jones Jr. I'm guessing he ends up just completely forgotten. And it's not that he's going to play himself into more minutes, but 18 minutes of him or 15 minutes of him can beat Javonte Green. And I wouldn't be surprised in, Javonte Green's 26, 28 minutes.
I want to hit on that Otto Porter piece first. I'm neutral to the field right now. He's 20-something% owned. That's exactly where I have him. So nothing too crazy there. The below 4K value is obviously largely concentrated on the Bulls, but I will recommend Pat Connaughton from Milwaukee at 3,800, assuming this is, it's a DK question. Yeah. So Pat Connaughton, Austin Rivers, I guess. I mean, I don't enjoy saying that out loud, but I do have some Austin Rivers. I will probably have quite a bit less now that I'm going to get 40% Javonte Green or something.
Oh no. I feel it coming. Babe. Save Din. Not calling you babe. I'm just quoting a song. $4.99. Thoughts on both Rivers and Peyton. So there you go. We got the Rivers side. Give me the Peyton side.
I don't have him, but clearly he's the type of guy that you could take that sort of shot on because he's such a good per minute guy. Every extra minute that he gets is just so much more valuable than if they go to like the shittier per minute guy. Like every minute that Gary Payton gets is massive. Every minute that Bryn Forbes gets isn't all that massive. Obviously different teams, but very different plays. So yeah. I'm not getting to Gary Payton. Like in this case, I am getting to someone like Austin Rivers just because of the minutes. But if you told me that you didn't want to play Austin Rivers and you wanted to play Gary Payton, I think that's a very reasonable thing to do in a larger field GPP.
I mean, yes, Javonte Green. Again, it's not the craziest thing ever. Steph Curry expected to start ahead of Kevon Looney on Wednesday. This we knew. That's great. Good to get that confirmation from reputable places. So appreciate that. Let's see if we got an ownership update here because it's going to look really crazy to me. I want to know what Kobe White and Javonte Green specifically, what's going to happen to them. Ayo Dosunmu, nothing changes for you there, right?
Correct.
Okay. I'm with you. 4,400. Well, I mean, Ayo, it's just such a weird spot where it's just impossible for me to get away from that. We caught up on super chats there. All right, let's round this out. But any other cheapies that you're kind of looking here at the forward board?
Let's see.
I mean, they're all Bulls now. It sucks.
Yeah, not really. I mentioned Rivers. I mentioned Javonte Green, which is going to get pushed up a bit. I had a little bit of JaMychal Green, which I think is going to go away now. I had a very little bit of Bielitsa. I think that's going to go away now. I wouldn't be surprised if my Wes Matthews went away. So no, I mean, if we're talking about the 3,900 and under forwards, I think it's Otto Porter, Austin Rivers, and Javonte Green as the main options. And then everybody else below that, you're just kind of hoping that the public is wrong.
Right. And or you're just hoping that something wonky happens. And I had seen something in chat earlier where you had talked about where if something happens to Jokic, you end up going small with Denver because they can't have Cousins out on the floor. Might be jumping the gun because we're about to talk at center here, but talk me through what you think that small ball lineup would look like if you're not going to have Jokic in lineups.
I think they're just more likely to go to a JaMychal Green or Jeff Green at the 5, considering you're going to get so many minutes of Draymond or Nemanja Bjelica or something at the 5 on the Warriors side. You don't need the center anymore. Obviously, Draymond Green is going to have no issue keeping an eye on DeMarcus Cousins on the opposite end. And when the ball is on the opposite side of the floor, best of luck to DeMarcus Cousins trying to do anything in pick and roll defense with Jordan Poole or Steph Curry or Clay running around on these screens. To me, if they have to go to more Cousins, they're dead in the water anyway. They're completely I think Cousins is basically unplayable in this series. He's just the backup center because it's weirder to go small and then go to Jokic. So I think if something happened to Jokic really early, we would get a lot more Jeff Green / JaMychal Green.
It's a forearm shiver. Klay Thompson coming off and a DeMarcus Cousins ejection. Like that's me reading the future.
I think that Cousins would get like one main rotation. He'd be like minus 16 in 4 minutes. And they'd be like, well, can't do that shit any longer.
They're not a good basketball team. It's so sad. I wanted so badly Michael Porter Jr. and Jamal Murray to be there. I digress. They're not. That's why they're 9-point dogs. Let's move to center here. But first, PrizePicks, daily prop-based contests. Such a fun site to be playing on. If I could have been a little bit more ready there, I would have been firing up some props over on PrizePicks, reacting in the moment as that news came down. I'm curious what's going to happen to some of my Kobe White numbers here as I'm kind of fixing everything up here, but waiting for that ownership here. Going to be exciting. Just like PrizePicks is exciting. You pick 2, 3, 4, or 5 player props. You put them together. You can get up to 10x your entry fee. Super clean interface. Download it over at the App Store or head to prizepicks.com. And best of all, you'll get 1 free month of Awesemo Plus Platinum when you sign up at PrizePicks for the first time. So you're incentivized to play there, not just because you get that $100 first match deposit bonus using promo code Awesemo, but because you get this free month. Everything we offer behind the paywall, completely free for checking out, playing their product. Use it in conjunction with OddsShopper, the quickest, easiest way to find bets in under 30 seconds. Tell you what, I mean, it has just been a print fest. If you've been able to react to some news yesterday, Joey Corman knows what's up. Max Struess, Gabe Vincent, how you doing? Enjoyed that very much on PrizePicks. I think you guys will enjoy playing over there too. And it's not just NBA. They've had great golf offerings, tennis, cricket. If you're in those streets, best of luck to you. That seems like something Josh might like. I guess it's not Premier League soccer. That's different. But anything that sticks out to you in the prop streets today, Josh, over on PrizePicks?
I'll be honest, haven't looked. Gonna look right now. Should have looked. Should have worn my PrizePicks hoodie, which is incredibly comfortable for me.
Those t-shirts are the most comfortable t-shirts that I probably own. That's not even.
I haven't worn the t-shirt yet. I've only worn the hoodie.
Oh,
but it's like t-shirt material, so I assume they're real comparable to each other.
Yeah. Well, you got the hoodie because you're cooler than me. It's fine.
Probably.
I got a t-shirt. I'm gonna need a sweatshirt now.
Well, I mean, all of the Bulls props look incredible. Like Dosunmu's at 20 fantasy points. I have him 6 fantasy points ahead of that mark. So go ahead and do that one.
Oh my God.
Like
just noticed that.
Yeah, that's not even close. I mean, I have Vooch 10 fantasy points ahead of his PrizePicks prop. So Vooch looks great. I've got DeRozan 7 fantasy points ahead of his PrizePicks prop. I would happily take DeMar DeRozan. If we want to say, like, I don't hate the Pat Connaughton 16, but at the same time, it's a little different now. Kobe White, I am spot on that number now, so I don't really have anything that I could add there. But the Dosunmu, DeRozan, Vooch, those three, like, to me, I don't want to say that they're locks because they're obviously a little bit correlated too.
Mm-hmm.
But I would be if I were trying to play a lot at PrizePicks today, I'd probably have 2 of those 3 in a lot of my 5-person parlays.
Yeah, I'm looking at that 20 from Dosunmu and the Vooch one. What about Brook Lopez at 24? That's not good enough. I'm only about a fantasy point and a half ahead of that. Seems like Wes Matthews, Pat Connaughton, probably the best guy on the other side. You do have to play somebody from the other side, or you could play it in any other sport. If you're looking at the MLB streets, Joe Ryan over 5.5 strikeouts against Detroit Tigers. But, that's just me throwing that out there, not trying to trigger Josh over there, having to make him talk baseball too early before it's time.
I don't even know who that is or what team that person's on. So
Minnesota Twins. It's my boy. So anyway, that's prizepicks.com. Definitely check them out. Thank you so much to them for their sponsorship over here on the show. We like playing over there very, very much. It's just a blast. It looks so easy. And it's super easy when you get 20 fantasy points from IO. So thank you to them for allowing us to have that today. I just fired up another one. Let's jump to center here, my friend. Jokic, we talked about him in the context of the slate going up against Jokic. We talked a little bit about Vooch, but just remind the people, why is Vooch such a smash today?
Yeah, he's just in a completely different spot with no Zach LaVine. I got him in for 29% usage in this spot. He should be the leading rebounder as well for the Bulls. I like the matchup for Vooch specifically just for the way that Milwaukee plays. 8K on FanDuel, 8,400 on DraftKings. I got him projected at 1.29 fantasy points per minute. I think he plays 38 to 40 minutes because they don't have much of a choice. If they don't play their best players today, they're going to go home and the season is just over. So I think that he is just wildly underpriced for what he has to do when there's no Alex Caruso and no Zach LaVine out on the floor. And when you replace those guys with a 9% usage Javonte Green or a 15% usage Patrick Williams or a 14% usage Ayo Dosunmu, it's got to go somewhere. And I think it's just going to go to Vooch. He's the efficient way to pay up today at center.
Yeah, he's just fantastic. I mean, they've proven that it's also an elimination game, and that always has to receive even more of a bump in consideration to know that there is no playing Tristan Thompson in this spot if this game is within 20 points. Like, you're going to have Vooch out on the floor till the bitter end. That's how it works. But outside of Jokic and Vooch, there's a stark, drastic drop-off. Sure, you can play Draymond and Bobby Portis /center over on DraftKings.com. But then Brook Lopez, your boy DeMarcus Cousins. Any other shares of centers that you're landing on today?
Prior to us getting that Bulls news, I had 87% Vooch, 30% Jokic, 15% Draymond, 15% Bobby Portis, and then a sub 10% amount of JaMychal Green and Bielitsa. I didn't have any Brook Lopez. To me, he's just like in a really like I get it, but I just went to Portis or Green instead. If you liked Lopez over Portis, I'm not going to argue too hard. I'm not going to Looney, whether he starts or doesn't start. I think he's live to not play if he doesn't start. And then I don't really want any Tristan Thompson either. Although, there was a non-zero chance that he was going to be the starter at the 4 if they wanted to go like ultra big. Since it's not happening, it's not happening for me. Once I run this new crunch, wouldn't be surprised if I got a little bit more Jokic, just because I think we created even more value with the Javonte Green move. So otherwise, I don't see much else happening at center. It's mostly a 4-horse race here, and you really need some big failures for. I think one of the Nicolas are going to be in the optimal for sure, and I think it's probably both.
Interesting. Okay. I like that call. I would be just fine with that, considering, well, I'm going to get to more Jokic now with 2 guys that make sense near 3K value on DraftKings. I feel like you have to play some Javonte Green. I keep flip-flopping before, like, what I want to do here in this spot. What is this ownership at? I need to see the ownership, because he's going to be more than 30%, isn't he? 29.5%. Does that sound about right?
I would expect that to be higher.
Me too. So I'm going to keep refreshing. We'll see if anything changes. 10 minutes to rock out here. Again, just really a lot of the analysis revolves around that. How much Kobe White did you end up landing on for DraftKings now?
I'll let you know in like 3 minutes.
Oh, I love that. All right. Getting it all done.
I ran a crunch of 1,700 lineups. He is the guy that is in the most of them. So I assume we're not going to be making a ton of changes with regards to Kobe White.
Okay. You're still just kind of holding steadfast with that, because his projection dropped drastically over here at Awesemo, down to around 23.5 fantasy points. Oh, what is free today? I guess I should give the people the handouts. NBA ownership rankings, NHL player rankings, PGA golfer projections for the Mexico Open. That's a dandy of a tournament, let me tell you. And MLB player rankings, check them all out. But yeah, I'm going to just give you some ownership freebies, because that's what we do here. Kobe White, 23.5%, or what? 23.5 for the projection, still 50% owned. I still think that that's probably too low. I'll probably be over that still. If that's going to for sure end up being the number. All right. I'm
going to be over that number as well.
It just feels like he's going to get overcorrected.
There we go. Done.
Look at that. So bring it to the table. Everybody needs to know, how much Javonte Green is too much Javonte Green.
That is an answer that I can give you whenever Google Drive refreshes my
you just had
file.
it.
Well, no, I got the 2 computer motion going because I'm running a sim on the laptop, so I got to send it on over to the desktop. Now I do have it, actually. So
all right,
we go.
Oh, well, here we go. Before you do that, I have 2 super chats first. Give you one more second to bring it over. Dean is $9.99. Draymond and Bones or Clay and Connaughton for a high dollar DK single entry, $9.99. Expensive super chat. That means we need an expensive answer for him.
It is Clay and Wait, no, it was Clay and Connaughton, right?
Clay and Connaughton or Draymond and Bones?
Yeah, it's Clay and Connaughton for me.
Same.
I think I like Clay and Connaughton more than I like the other. Like, I think that's my 1 and my 2 against my 3 and my 4.
Worked out well then. Old Rat 1-4. Yeah, 14. I could just say the number 14. Good job, Eric. Connaughton to Green to get Thompson from Draymond, DK, question mark. So Connaughton to Green to get Thompson from Draymond. I like Thompson a lot. I like Thompson more than Draymond, but I also like Green more than I like Connaughton now, but the field probably will too. I'm also curious what happens to your Connaughton here in this crunch that you end up having come out, but
Same.
Draymond, is that somebody that you'd be willing to go down to Green to go get off of Connaughton?
No, I would rather have Clay in that scenario. At least I think so. I'm about to click my refresh button now, so we can actually have a conversation about what my crunch really does look like. I've made some changes to my process as of late, and I didn't do it in the most efficient way that I should have from a file perspective. So hasn't been fun as of late. Alrighty. I now have 28% Pat Connaughton, which is less than I had before. Okay, well, I guess we're doing that. That's
here we go.
Fun. I have 96% Javonte Green.
Oh my God. What?
94% Desunmu, 94% Kobe White, 85% Vooch. I'm lighter on Patrick Williams now.
You should just run one lineup tonight at this point.
Well, it's basically just like every combination of what you can get for those three guys.
Just 1v1. How many bulls are you getting into? Are you getting any 5 bulls in a lineup type builds?
I would imagine the answer is yes. Let me upload these quickly.
Yeah, go ahead.
And then
you do
we
that.
can actually have that conversation.
I have,
but yeah, I'm sure that I'm getting to some 5 bull lineups.
I have 80 lineups. I have 2 5 bulls lineups out of 80. So there's that. Most of them, 37 are 4-player stacks, and then 38. So yeah, that's almost the entire allotment is 3-man or 4-man. But again, people care about that stuff. For me, it's just kind of whatever comes out. I don't really think about it, but I did remove my cap for them just because I was curious. I think there's a lot of viability to playing Io, Kobe White, Javonte Green, DeMar DeRozan, Vooch, having those 5 specifically in a lineup.
You just need so little from some of these guys. And I think that's the piece that people are going to miss. Like you need so much less than it seems that I'm not worried at all here.
Yeah, because Giannis and Vooch and DeRozan and Curry and these guys exist, and you're just going to be like flip-flopping lineups with those guys. I am getting to less Giannis than I had before, and I'm getting to a little bit more Jokic, if that counts for anything.
I think that makes some sense too. All right, 46 lineups. Got it. Too. Copy.
96%. You are bold strategy, Cotton. Did you get any Derek Jones?
I'm guessing no, just based on all the numbers that I just shouted out, but it's not out of the realm of possibility. We're about to find out. Upload
10% of him.
I don't think I uploaded anything before, so this is the first time I'm putting my lineups in.
Good.
It seems like the right thing to do. Am I getting to any Derek Jones? Yes, 8%.
Okay, I have 10. So there you are. Look at that. I feel better about it then because it just felt like don't overthink this shit. I'm with you, Nick Rahal. I'm with you. I'm going to show that comment. There it is. There we go. It's going to be a wild one, everybody. We got 4 minutes here until lock. Anything else really stick out to you in that crunch that you just want the people to know before we get to lock that they can actually make some adjustments to?
Hit me with that question again. I was reading chat.
Oh, you're just fine. What did I even say? I don't even give a shit what I said. I said something about, tell the people something interesting about your crunch that they can actually use in the next 4 minutes before lock.
Ooh, okay.
Anything that sticks out to you I mean, we talked through the numbers. Is there anything that somebody that is like last minute revamping their lineup, something that you would like to say, do this?
Let me look at my biggest fades or
that's a great way of looking at it. I mean, big stance, Javonte Green near lock button. That'll do it.
Yeah, I mean, I'm really light on Poole and Bones Highland, Monty Morris right now. They are some of the bigger stands that I'm taking. Honestly, I don't see a lot that I think is super meaningful right now. I'm a little bit heavier on Javon Carter. I think now that George Hill is out, he might get slept on a little bit and like maybe people are a little bit more interested in Javonte Green or Desunmu in this case. Desunmu obviously like on a very different level than someone like Javon Carter. But if we're just talking about pay down guys, I think he might get slept on a little bit now that we have all of this Chicago news.
Do you think he gets some blowout run too? I mean, I would assume he's the guy that comes in that spot. So that'd be cool. But again, I don't think the Bulls, they're pretty much blowout proof because they're either cheap or they're guys that are going to be on the floor because they're down 20. And what else do you have to do other than go on vacation as soon as the game's over?
I really hope that Giannis is the guy that does the stomping in that Chicago game and not Drew Holiday.
I'm probably with you in that regard. And again, Drew Holiday, it feels like he was an obvious play and now he's just kind of like gone quietly into the corner and he's just doing Drew Holiday things where he just impacts the game in a remarkable way. Chris Middleton's your boy. Are you worried about the fact that they win this game? They have to play on Friday as opposed to getting to rest him till Sunday.
Yes.
They should almost like punt this game, right?
Oh God. Yeah, sort of. I mean, they're not going to lose. They could, in theory. This would be a really good game. Oh, could you imagine? This would be a really good game to lose on purpose.
It would. Your 12.5 point favorite if it comes down to crunch time, I would rather take my chances 2 games before I have to play Boston without Middleton.
Yeah, I think that's an important piece, obviously. And I might be like the biggest Middleton stan on the planet, although that is waning. I talked about it on a show recently. So I look at, it's a stat called Darko.
Belichick?
Yes. Well, yeah, I mean, that's why the acronym exists, but
okay.
They've got this really good historical career trajectory table where you can type in a couple of different guys' names, like in this case, Jimmy Butler and Chris Middleton. And it plots basically like what their talent levels are. And you see this really nice line. And for the first 600 games of their career, their lines might as well be on top of each other. So I'm just like, yeah, look, that's exactly where I was. I was like, I think Chris Middleton fits a winning team better than Jimmy Butler. Like he just integrates better. Mm-hmm. And from the moment that I put that take out into the world, Jimmy Butler's line is like slightly, like is basically stayed straight. And Chris Middleton's is like going straight downhill for the past like 150 games. I spoke it into existence and it immediately ruined Chris Middleton. He became, instead of like being great, he's now like above average, and I hate it so much.
Well, don't give yourself that. You didn't do it, Josh. The world did it. His knees did it. His existence did it. I mean, he's a fantastic basketball player in real life. He has been. They don't win a title. Remember his playoff struggles at the beginning of last season? And I'm still like, he still matters in such an extreme way where defensively he still sets everything up for Drew Holiday to be a monster. So like, and Giannis is always going to be a monster. It's just, Chris Middleton's always been slept on, but not the most underrated player in the NBA. Who is the most underrated player in the NBA, in your opinion?
Ooh, good question. By the way, we're locked. So
yeah, well, that's why we've talked through 2 games for an hour. And if people didn't know to play Javonte Green, Kobe White, and Ayo Dosunmu in 3 of your 8 lineup spots today, I don't really know what to tell you.
The most underrated player in the NBA is Rudy Gobert.
Whoa, interesting. What, Jordan, is that popcorn? Get your popcorn ready? Okay, Rudy Gobert is the most underrated player in the NBA.
He is. He absolutely is. I don't think it's like really, it's like the new thing to do to crap on Rudy Gobert. He single-handedly gives you a high-end defense throughout every regular season. If you have Rudy Gobert on your team and he is healthy enough, you have a top 10 defense by default and likely a top 5 defense. He is not the reason that their defense goes crazy in the playoffs. He does everything that he can. Check the numbers. When he is put on someone in isolation, he does a fantastic job of it because he's long. If he gets beat, it's really hard for someone to get beat and get out of his wingspan. The problem is Donovan Mitchell is terrible on defense. He gets beat like a drum. Mike Conley is terrible on defense. He gets beat like a drum. Jordan Clarkson is terrible on defense. He gets beat like a drum. Bojan is big, at least, still not particularly good on defense. It's been a very long time since he was the guy that had to guard LeBron James while he was in Indiana. So
he's been guarding Luka the whole series.
Right. Not going great so far.
Not going, not
fantastic. They can't stop anybody on the perimeter. And yeah, it's true. Gobert has to clean up the mess over and over and over again. He can't cover the rim and cover the corner when those guys get beat and they get open threes. I think that if I'm the Jazz, knowing what I know about how teams value guys for trades and the amount that you can bring in for stars, I think that Donovan Mitchell can get a ton more in a trade than Rudy Gobert can. And I think that you can trade Donovan Mitchell and reload better than you could because if you trade, let's say you trade Rudy Gobert.
Yeah.
Your defense is dead. I don't know how. You have to be bringing back a Miles Turner type, a guy that can still anchor a defense, but then also stretch the floor. If you don't do that, all you're going to do is penalize your team. And I don't think you're going to get much better offensively because Rudy Gobert just makes every shot that he takes. Obviously, they're all dunks. So I am advocating for the Utah Jazz to trade Donovan Mitchell for the biggest package that they can find.
Oh my God. Chat is out of control. Jordan Klein, you could strategically place a trash can to do more on offense than Gobert.
Here, like the big piece for
50% of basketball is the other side of it. Jordan
right,
Klein.
Exactly.
I mean, eat my dick. How about that? How about that, Jordan Klein? Should we talk PrizePicks? I probably can't talk PrizePicks right after saying eat my dick to our producer, but
imagine if the Knicks were like, here's RJ Barrett, another young player, 2 firsts and 2 swaps. You should do that in a moment's notice. The picks are massive for a team like the Utah Jazz for this reason. No one's going to Utah with a free agent contract.
Yeah.
No one at all is signing with the Utah Jazz over any other potential place that they can go to because no one wants to go play in Utah. If you're going to get people there, you got to draft those guys. It doesn't you're not going to be like, oh, we'll keep Donovan Mitchell and then we'll get ourselves a second star. That guy's not coming to Utah. I promise you this. You're going to need more bites at the apple. Take the New York Knicks picks for sure in the future if you can do that and try to retool your team that way.
Think about it this way. Jabari Parker didn't want to go to Utah. Like the most Mormon of the Mormons did not want to go to Utah. I'm just saying it's not.
No one's going to
Utah.
Utah.
Great. It's not a thing. There you are, man. I do like talking real basketball, Josh. Good to get chat fired up too. Nobody really riles up chat the way you do. I rile them up, but in like a did Eric just say that kind of way. It's more of just like a ooh gotcha. You said a silly thing. You don't know how to pronounce his name. Yeah, I do.
No.
Maybe I just
I'm not taking any
up.
nonsense from chat. I'm gonna let them know what's what.
I know. I'm gonna let you guys know in chat. Smash that like button. We appreciate you so much. We have never said anything bad about any of you before in our lives. Not a single time. I think Jordan Klein is out of his mind right now. This is the hardest I've seen him laugh in a long time. All right, PrizePicks. That is the spot where we've talked through a lot of these plays. You can still get in. I don't think that game has started yet for the NBA game. So I'm looking at fantasy score. Yes, apparently it did because it just came off the board.
3-0 Bucks. Minute into the game.
Giannis for 3. Giannis for 3, first bucket. All you first bucket bettors.
I think he had a free throw.
Giannis. Oh, he did have a free throw. Okay. And 1. That's better.
I think it was a Patrick Williams jumper. Yeah.
I don't have my TV set up to do anything because
I have your face on the top of a Hulu browser window right now.
Oh, perfect.
Yeah, that's the play, man. Oh, they're doubling Giannis.
That's not going to go well.
Yeah.
Patrick Williams bucket. Patrick Williams on the board.
You're a
Welcome
full
to
minute
clan.
behind me somehow. Vooch, 3.
Full minute behind, ready to rock.
You fuck.
It's going to be okay. Let's talk through some Denver Golden State. We want to give our sponsor PrizePicks a quick second to talk through anything that stands out to us in that game. Let's say the Bulls game doesn't go to, well, I mean, if there's no way these Bulls players are going to completely fail. Let's just put it that way. There's going to be at least 2 Bulls optimal. I'm just going to put that out in the world. Like I find it almost impossible what just happened.
Patrick Williams had an open corner 3, pump fake to take a 2-step in jumper from 18 feet and airballed it.
Is that good?
Not for him.
And then he fouled the dude. So there you go.
It was ugly. Like, just shoot the damn ball, man. You don't have time for that shit.
Well, there's a bucket. Javonte Green on the board, at least 4-3. I ended up on more when you said that. I just kind of like quick trigger fingered. Threw in some more, such as life. Oh, man. I'm going to be holding hands in the $20 40 million people. I just feel it. I'm looking at I only put a couple
do we have any
lineups
ownership?
in that one. Oh, yeah. Let's go through that. I'm pulling it up. Let's do this. Over under. Let's do this. You need to get within 20%. Within 20%, you can only miss by up to 20% on the 3 main bulls, period. Okay. And I don't know what you win at the end of it, but that's the game. That's what I want you to do.
I'm in.
I just soon move $20 on DK. What's his ownership?
52.
61.1%. So there's 9%. We're gonna just make it an even 9. Javonte Green ownership.
34.
30.3%. Lower than I think we were both anticipating. He's up to 5.25 DraftKings points. You have 96% of him. It's a great time to be you, I would say. That feels good. What?
Vooch is down.
No. Stop it. Like actually hurt?
I mean, I don't know yet.
Well, 4%, 9%, 13%.
He got knocked a little loose. Like, he looks okay now that I'm seeing him. I think he hit his head on the ground. He got Giannis ran through him, but he started he kind of lost his footing. He was pretty stationary, but he hit his head on the ground pretty hard. He's up. He doesn't look great, but just the look on his face is he got his bell rung a little bit. I think he's going to be okay. He doesn't look vacant the way you see NFL guys.
Oh, so he's conscious, but is this when we just saw this the other day with our boy Alex Caruso?
Yeah, same team.
Yeah.
The way that it looks to me is that he's going to stay out there, but obviously diagnosing a concussion from the privacy of my office is probably not the best way to do it. I know we're doing a lot of virtual doctor's office visits nowadays post-COVID, but today doesn't feel like that day.
Just get up in front of the camera. A little bit of that.
If Vooch is out right now, I'm turning the stream off.
That's fair. Oh man,
Tristan
not the
Thompson
first time
season,
that
baby.
Oh, I can't imagine if that actually ends up being a thing. And last guy, so we're 9 and 4%, so 13%.
Okay,
Kobe White.
58.
49.5. Oh my God. So just by 1%, you lost the game. I can't believe it. How could you? 49.5%. People overcorrected a little bit, I would say. He was projected north of 55% pretty much all day. Sub 50% Kobe White, I'm very interested in.
What is Vooch?
Vooch. Oh, you will not even believe it.
So it's low, I have to assume.
Yes.
24?
26.6%.
Okay. Well,
pretty low. Is he in the game still? They took a timeout to give him a second, it looks like.
Yeah. It's a Progressive commercial right now with some AOC lookalike.
If he is out, Tristan Thompson is going to win somebody a tournament. Obviously, something bad like that is going to happen. Yes.
Derek Jones Jr. becomes really interesting then.
Oh my God. Yeah, that becomes the smash of all smashes for sure. They could play. I mean, I know they couldn't. I mean, Derek Jones Jr. playing the 4, DeRozan playing the 5. Oh, you'd play Derek Jones at the 5, right?
Per YouTube chat and per Christopher Mabry, I won.
You did?
I don't know. I don't know any of the numbers.
9, 4, and 8 is 21. Everybody, you said 58%. It was 49.5. So 8, 9 is what you were off on the first one. 4, 8. That is 21. That is missed by 1%. Wrong. You are wrong, sir.
Honestly, I mean, chat is usually so smart that I just have to assume that they're right again here.
Okay, there we go. I think they're I will say what they are is they are definitely nitpicky. They will definitely call you out on a certain thing. If it's so, again, I'll have to play it back or something. I don't have time for that. I'm pretty sure though that it was 9, 4, and 8, and that equals 21. That's math. It's blackjack.
But it's 9, 3.5, and 8.5. All right. So Vooch slips, smacks his head on the ground. They're interviewing Dennis Scott. What's he saying?
IO block. Let's go.
All right, he's still in the game.
Yep, still out there. There we go. Vooch needs Mr. Miyagi. Yeah, that's fair.
And Lonzo is dressed in a very interesting way.
What do you think Patrick Williams' ownership was today?
That's a good question. I have 24%. I'm going to say that he was at, 20.
41.4%.
No shit.
Oh, yeah. That's the one that just stood out to me where I was like, what in God's green earth is this?
Okay, well, now I know who I'm cheering against.
See how that switches where you're just like, I'm over the field slightly on this guy. It's whatever. And then it's like, oh, shit. If he goes nuts, I'm in a lot of trouble. That's not a good feeling.
Yeah, now I'm cheering against him right now.
Giannis ownership.
I have to assume that the way, especially with Vooch being lighter, I'm going to say Giannis is like 55.
40.9%.
Okay, so I'm going to assume then Jokic is the guy that's a lot heavier.
He's going to be.
We didn't do DeRozan yet.
We did not do DeRozan yet.
51.
40.3%.
Interesting. Okay.
So it seems like all of those guys just kind of 40 what-ish. I mean, Patrick Williams 41.4%. I never would have gotten. I think Javonte Green is a lot lighter than I thought. 30.3%. What's my handicap? J.K. Lawrence +2 right now. I think I haven't played a lot of golf this year. I was +4 a little bit ago, but whatever.
I have not played a lot of. I've played the golf simulator on 2 separate days.
Look at you. Is that like a North Carolina hangout thing? Do you know somebody with a simulator or?
Okay, so I do know someone that has a simulator, but not here. We have 2 places here that have them and have like bars and stuff, and you can just go and rent the pod for a bit and just hit and.
That's pretty
beers.
sick.
It's fun. Like we went and did it
better than darts.
I'm a big darts guy, but I would rather play the simulator for sure. We have one now that has baseball in it too. I haven't checked that one out yet. I went one random day, and me and a buddy that was in town were just like, "Yo, this was fun." So we went again like 3 or 4 days later because it was just a real good time. You just get to hang out and crush drinks and be real shitty at the simulator.
Do you bring your own darts to the bar?
I have. They're in the car.
Oh, Jordan Klein knew it. He knew it.
Yeah.
Custom made darts. It's got the little, you take the box, you open it, and your wife is just like, please, why did I do this to myself?
I think they're in the car that's here right now. If I had time, I would run out to the car to check.
All right, we got 15 minutes. Let's go to PrizePicks because I can't go down that street. Jesus Christ.
Darts are fun, man.
Bringing your own darts to a bar, though.
Have you ever watched darts?
Yeah, it's a darty party.
How great is it?
It's the announcers make it. I've watched it.
180.
Oh, 180. Yeah, it's madness.
The whole crowd's going bonkers. They're throwing beers and stuff. It's an incredible experience.
The guy who did the 501 live for something at the World Darts or whatever, where he did it in 3 turns. Wasn't that it? What just happened?
Don't know. Giannis just took an oop from Drew, so it was pretty sweet. But yeah,
Giannis
like
7 and 3 is good.
Watching people go, 9 dart runouts, it's fun, man. It's fun, and anybody can be really good at darts because a lot of those sloppy people don't look great at all.
But I don't think they're just out there crushing beers and doing it to that regard.
I mean, they might as well be. Half of them look like John Daly. They're all huge.
They do. There's some big boys. Big boys in that. Over at PrizePicks.com, we have some props. I don't think there's any fantasy score. Like fantasy scores have felt pretty light to me on a lot of them. They look pretty efficient for this game. If there's anything that sticks out, like 9 is kind of a trigger for me when you see 9 next to Jeff Green, but I'm still not interested in something like that. Even DeMarcus Cousins, I don't think I want a short 12 or anything of that nature. But any other props stick out to you over on PrizePicks for the late night hammer?
I'm taking a look at it right now. Let's see.
Also, smash that like button. If you guys are still hanging out here, talking darts, talking, concussions, diagnosing people live, you might as well just smash that like button. Goes a long way for us.
All right, let's do this. I'm going to put a call to action out to PrizePicks. PrizePicks, if you're listening, I need a CSV export so that I could look at this stuff quickly. I can't find this stuff because I got a individual line by line. So allow me to export this stuff so that I can analyze it better. I think I could probably reach out myself and actually get this done, and it would probably be fine. But I'd be happy to talk more about PrizePicks, considering they are the presenting sponsor of the Process Show. But it's really hard to get the information off the site. I had to scrape it in some weird ways. Anyway, let's talk PrizePicks. Let me get to my table of all of my good stuff.
I'm not going to ask Josh about The Office. I'm not going to do it. You guys don't just go out of your way to bring up things that are going to halt it for 13 minutes.
Not my cup of tea.
Yeah.
23.
Picked up on that. Troy Brown Jr., the first guy to check in for the Chicago Bulls today. Fuck my life.
Not ideal.
Troy Brown Jr. checking in. Well, actually second because Kobe White checked in too, but that was a second ago.
From a points perspective, regular points, I don't really see anything. I'm going to look from a fantasy score perspective now. I would very easily take the over 56 on Jokic. Assuming Nikola Jokic plays 38 minutes, that puts him at a 1.47 fantasy point per minute rate. That would be a bad game out of Jokic. So I love the over of Jokic fantasy points. I would happily take the over of Clay. Let's see. Steph is 42. I'd probably take that under. No, I would take the under on Steph. That's how you know things are crazy. I would actually finally like an over. Normally, Steph Curry is like a clean under for me in fantasy because he's not that kind of guy. Not today. Yeah. Draymond, 34. If I had to take anything, I would take the under on Draymond. But get the Jokic play. I don't understand. 56 is insane.
Yeah, I'm with you. 56 is light. This is a do or die game. Yeah. Oh, it's on the road. Oh, he gets Draymond Green. I don't care. It's Nikola Jokic. He's going to play 38, 40 minutes. Well, 38 is probably maybe even high, but whatever. DeMarcus Cousins has to play his 12, 14 minutes. Right?
Not necessarily. Let's talk about The Office. That's your jam.
No, it's not. I'm not going to go out and be out there and beat down the door for it. It's fantastic, though. You're just wrong. You're wrong if you don't like it. I mean, come on.
So I watched it pretty much the whole way. Definitely finished off the show with my now wife whenever it ended, which was basically when we first started dating. I don't love that style of comedy.
Okay.
I'm not a big Arrested Development guy, and I think that's mildly in the same vein. I don't.
What about Parks and Recreation?
Never even watched it. Yeah,
you have to watch Parks and Rec. I think the reason I can't go out and stick my neck out for The Office is I will stick my neck out for Parks and Rec. It is so damn good.
Didn't enjoy it while my wife watched it. I don't like. How do I describe it? That style of humor doesn't make me laugh. It makes me feel awkward, sort of in the same way that I feel when I watch certain episodes of Curb. I don't like uncomfortable comedy.
I get that. There's times with Michael Scott where he does something he goes and lectures and you're like, whoa. It's a very, you're going to watch this guy toast. You're the kind of guy who has dreams of waking up and having a final that day that you didn't study for. It's the same kind of feeling.
I went to a final once in college and it had been the day before.
What?
I walked into the room and I sat down and there was nobody else there and nobody showed up, and I went to my professor's office and he was like, yeah, that's because it was yesterday. It's all righty.
Did he let you retake it?
Certainly did not.
Oh, there you go. Perfect. That's what we're looking for. Welcome to Awesemo.com, Josh.
Yeah. So that didn't go well. Whatever. I made it. Look at me. So yeah, it doesn't really matter.
The league is better than The Office. That is a stick out from El Negro Loco, our boy, the news god here in chat. The league is better than The Office. Would you agree with that?
No. I can't advocate for a show about fantasy sports where there's only 6 people or 8 people in the league and 3 of them are basically never on camera. Their entire league is trash and it makes me sick to my stomach. The problem for me is that I hate shows that are fully rooted in realism. When you watch The Office, you feel like you're just watching a snapshot into the life of something, like a real office. Mm-hmm. But none of the things that happen could happen. And I can't suspend disbelief in a realistic situation. Michael Scott should just not have his job after 3 months.
Yeah, it's true.
And he has it for 9 years.
Until he leaves it sacrimoniously and then becomes Will Ferrell and it's a disaster. But, such is life. Yeah. I get it. So somebody just brought up New Zealand. Anthony Childs tried to find a New Zealand series called Live at the Classic, 2 seasons, 6 episodes each. Think you'd really like it. I've never seen that. I will take a look at that. Have you seen that, Josh?
No, I'm not big into the New Zealand television shows right now. There's a lot on my plate at this particular moment. I haven't dipped my toe into the water.
Where I was getting at with this is there's a New Zealand inspired show because it came from the movie. A bunch
of wallabies talking or something.
Let me get through this. What We Do in the Shadows is so fantastic. There are no words for it. It's on FX. If there is any comedy that is going to be in that vein of like an Office type thing. It's basically a bunch of vampires and they do a mockumentary of it. And it's phenomenal, based in like New York, but it comes from a New Zealand movie that was like Tika Waititi and those guys. But it's Jermaine from Flight of the Conchords. It is so fantastic. So check out that, everybody in chat. And Josh, yes, that is for you.
So I'm more of like a Eastbound and Down. I need like really vulgar humor.
Well, you need that.
Yeah, I do. Now, I haven't seen the Shadows joint that you talked about, but I have heard good things.
Well, you need to check that one out. What we do in the Shadows is just phenomenal stuff. Pat Connaughton for 3 on the board, 23-10. It's the evisceration. Again, thinking about it.
Wait, do you have it on now?
Yeah, I mean, I have it in the corner. I just have it. I put it in the corner of my screen. I've got it on here. Giannis
before
bucket.
You were like, oh, blah, blah, blah for 3. And that was like 2 possessions before. Now, that time, Pat Connaughton took that shot and I hadn't seen it yet.
Well, sorry. Well, I live in the future out here on the. Actually, no, you live in the future because I'm on the West Coast. So the best coast. That's how it goes.
True.
It's not terrible. Have you been to California?
Quite a few times, actually.
Oh, good. Yeah,
I used to go to San Francisco pretty regularly. My wife had a conference out there, so we would go there and then go up to like Mendocino or Napa or something like that and just hang out and drink some wine. I've only done one day one weekend in LA. It was, Ronda Rousey had a fight that night. We were going to try to go, and then we ended up not going. But I took a very nice bath at whatever hotel I stayed in.
So you don't wash hands, but you take baths.
It was just this gigantic tub. So I was just like, oh, this, I've been walking around and doing stuff all day. I'm going to take a soak. It's nice. Red Skittles got it, though. Rick and Morty is just the answer to everything.
Rick and Morty I've never even seen Rick and Morty. Never seen an episode in my life. Not one.
That one stings.
Sorry.
That one stings.
Never seen a single episode. I need to. I will. I'll get there. Still 10 years behind the rest of the states. Oh, no, we're not. Are you kidding me? California's fantastic. It's expensive as shit, but it's...
I don't know if it's fantastic any longer. It seems to be a real terrible place in general from a people perspective.
Okay, but then there's people like Jordan Klein and Eric Lindquist, and we live here very ceremoniously. We have very nice times, and we,
Like I said, it's the people.
Thanks, Josh. I knew there was a reason we didn't do shows together. And now I found out. Kobe White out there, he's got 3 points. So at least he's on the board here starting off, considering we're, the 50% of people who have him. There's that. Drew Holiday, 5-4-2. He's just going to make this hurt,
Kobe.
Isn't he? He's just going to make this hurt.
Yeah,
we knew it was happening too.
Yeah, I mean, look, he's really good at basketball. For him to have an outlier day didn't surprise me. I just didn't love the price.
I'm with you. It just didn't make a lot of sense on this slate today to land to a whole lot with all the Bulls value. And then, if you wanted to play somebody up there, for me, I was just going to try to make Jordan Poole a thing, but we'll see how it ends up working out here. 25-13 here in that game. We have 4 minutes left to go. Yeah, I've never seen an episode of Rick and Morty. I don't know, or Rick and Morty, right? It's not Marty.
It's Morty.
Oh, that's what it is. Yeah, I've never seen it.
Oh, yeah. It is a show that is very, those Venn diagrams overlap quite a bit. I think it's good either way, though. It's just like it's a smart show to me. Mm-hmm. Like I really appreciate the writing more than anything else. Anthony Childs mentioned Archer. I watched like the first
Archer was great.
6 or 7 seasons. I haven't kept up with it as of late, but whenever like a robot archer ended up in the pool, whatever season that ended with and started with, that's when I haven't seen any of it since. But I mean, I loved it.
All right. Last thing, 2-0 Liverpool today. Congratulations.
Good to get the first leg out of the way. If we lose by more than 2 when we go to Villarreal, then we don't deserve to be in the Champions League final. But we are still very, very live for a quadruple this year. And if that happens, we are the greatest soccer team in the history of the world.
Would you prefer to face City or Madrid?
I want Madrid. I want revenge for 6 years ago or whatever it was.
So while that was like anything that happened before COVID soccer is just like a blur to me. It all blends together.
We lost the final, won the final, lost to Atletico, COVID. I don't remember anything after COVID. So I want the revenge for the Karius game, for the Bale bicycle kick. I want that one back. And I just think City's better, so I don't really want that one. Personally, I would like to beat City for the league and then potentially beat them for the league. Like if we win the league, then I want it to be City because I really want to turn the screws.
Yeah.
But getting the revenge against Madrid for taking us out in 17 or 18, whatever year that was, I can't remember anymore. I got so drunk for the one that we won that I can't remember years anymore.
Oh my God. Yeah. Well, Benzema will be the best player on the pitch if it's going to be Madrid and them, but I'm with you. I think you don't want to play like De Bruyne and Gabriel Jesus. You don't want to play those guys. That's not a fun team to fit to try to go out and beat. But Liverpool's pretty freaking good. Congratulations. I'm a Manchester United fan and I hate everything. So
it's
not a good.
Hey, great managerial signing though.
Yeah. What?
Fellow, you Erics need to stick together.
We're going to leave. We're in a lot of trouble. There's a lot of things that need to take place, but such is life. Also, I don't like cheering for Ronaldo, but here we are. Guys, we're going to get
a great person.
Jesus. We're going to get ourselves out of here. It's PGA Live before lock time. I want to give them a little 1 minute buffer here as we lead into it. My guys, Ben Raza, as well as everybody's favorite, Jason Roslin. Welcome, PGA DFS golf fans. Going to be a blast. Go check it out. Any final words for the people, Josh, as we get out of here?
Yes, and it's going to be the words that you're going to get from Ben Raza in 2 minutes. Let's go, Aaron Wise.
Let's go, Aaron Wise. Quack, quack. We'll see you guys later. Have a good one.